Welcome everyone to the Connecting Industry Conference. Sorry about that, we just had to get the screen the right way around. As I just said, welcome everyone to Resource Industry Media's Connecting Industry Conference, which is proudly sponsored by Jobs in Central Queensland. My name is Kieran Moran and I'm the Managing Director of Resource Industry Media. Today's conference is designed to keep you up to date with the latest project and procurement information to assist the resource and construction sector during COVID-19 social distancing restrictions. At today's conference, you'll hear from some of the largest infrastructure and renewable energy projects from North to South Queensland. The conference also includes breakout speakers, all experts in their fields, who will be talking about issues surrounding the procurement space. At today's conference, you'll hear from some of the largest infrastructure and renewable energy projects from North to South Queensland. The conference also includes breakout speakers, all experts in their fields, who will be talking about issues surrounding the procurement space. As many of you are aware, due to COVID-19 and social distancing restrictions, everyone and every business, including the resource and construction industry, are currently operating in uncharted territory. We all work with the resource and construction industry, and I believe most of you today would agree we are extremely lucky to be working right now. 6 months ago, like many of you here today, I was building my business and helping others build theirs. However, that changed overnight in March with the realisation that what was most important was not my business, but more my family, my friends, and my colleagues. And the same applies for industry. While today is about some of the largest infrastructure and renewable energy projects in the state and the building of those projects, ultimately today is about the people that build those projects and build Queensland every day. I'm now, hopefully, if everything works properly, just going to play a short video.
Despite COVID-19, the industry continues to power Queensland's economy through one of the most difficult times ever experienced. We have had to move fast, adapt, and learn new ways of working together. The Connecting Industry Conference will highlight some of the largest infrastructure and renewable energy projects in the state. The industry is not just about building, it's about people. The people that step up every day and work to build our state. The people that work together within our highly skilled supply chain so everyone else can move forward in building their own lives. The Connecting Industry Conference is about connecting people, building relationships, and acknowledging the great work our sector does every day.
It is our goal for this conference to not only connect you with the latest resource construction information and procurement opportunities, but most importantly, build relationships between you, the speakers, and other attendees so you can connect with their stories and tell your business story right. Firstly, I would like to thank our sponsors, the principal sponsor, Jobs in Central Queensland, and our breakout speaker sponsors, Fothrock and the South Pack Group. Without those sponsors, this conference would not be happening today. So thank you. And secondly, I'd also like to thank today's speakers and projects. Marty Evans from the Inland Rail, who's the Inland Rail Director of Program Operations, Kerry Parker from Australian Future Energy, Daniel Belton from Acciona, Jeremy Kruger from the Cross River Rail Project, Alex Graham from, Alex Graham, who's the manager, and Andre Gonzalez, procurement manager for Siemens Gamesa's Forest Wind Project, and Stephen Grocott, Pure Minerals CEO. I'd also like to thank our breakout speakers today, Michael Schwart from the Industry Capability Network, Joel Hillier from Hillier Consulting, Murray Saylor from Tagai Management, and Jason Mantan, also from the Inland Rail. Now without today's proceedings. The Connected Industry Conference is separated into 3 online links. The main conference, which is the link you're on now, breakout speaker link, and also a networking room. And the networking room is just that, a room to visit and network with those in the room. If you'd like to create a private meeting, please create one within Zoom and invite others that you would like to attend that private meeting. I'll also inform you that depending on time, there may be a 10-minute break at approximately 11 a.m. so people can make a coffee or go to the toilet or so forth. Each link is available via the conference event app, which is in now. And our advice today is to use the URL to connect to the app over the web. Within the app, you'll find the program and session times, connect to each session via the live webinar or live meeting and the live networking room buttons. Each link will bring you into each segment of the conference over Zoom. However, you can only have one Zoom window open at a time within your account. So please list your correct name as well on the Zoom platform so everybody knows who you are. The event app is available to network with project speakers and attendees. Please fill out as much details about you, including a picture, so others can understand you and your business. You can message other attendees or you can request to connect with them. If accepted, you'll have access to their contact details if they choose to actually have them. So like Facebook, they'll choose to either say yes, and that's where all their contact details will become available to you, including their emails and if they've listed their phone numbers. Please also take part in the polling questions. You'll see some down the side of the app, and you'll also see some of those polling questions within this session right now. There's a couple polling questions down below in the description of this session and in the description of all the projects. The conference app allows you to ask questions to speakers due to the main conference being a webinar. Please use the app to ask questions and upload those questions while the speaker is speaking. Our MC today, Nicola Curtis, will present your questions to the speaker. The second option is to also ask questions via Zoom, but the app is the best way to do it because that's what the MC will be looking at predominantly. And finally, the breakout speakers are facilitated over the Zoom meeting format. This allows you and the presenter to see and hear each other. Questions can be asked live after each presentation, or as just mentioned, via the conference app or writing over Zoom. Before proceedings officially start, at approximately 9:20 this morning, I'd like to connect you with 2 of our sponsors. The Connected Industry Conference principal sponsor, Jobs in Central Queensland, is part of the Job Skills Network. Job Skills Network operating regional New South Wales and regional Queensland. And please right now, welcome the Director of the Job Skills Network, Tim O'Brien, to the Connecting Industry Conference.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks very much, Kieran. It's great to be here. I'm going to share my screen with you in a minute and just run through a very short slide deck. But I just wanted to thank Kieran and the team at Resource Industry Media for putting together this conference. I have been privy to some of the work that's been going on behind the scenes, and I've got to say it's been an absolutely awesome feat. So without further ado, I'll just share my screen and just run through a few things regarding jobs in Central Queensland. Just bear with me a second, please, everyone. Okay, so hopefully you can see that screen. Jobs in Central Queensland are very proud to sponsor the Connecting Industry Conference. And I just wanted to share a couple of statistics with everyone. And I appreciate that not everyone here is here about projects specifically in Central Queensland, but as Kieran mentioned, we are part of a network, Job Skills Network, where we specialise on regional sites. So I'm just having a little technical issue here. I won't be a second, please bear with me. Okay, hopefully everyone can now see my screen. I did just want to let you know that the Regional Australia Institute's chief economist recently produced a report. They tend to send out a report every quarter, and actual job vacancies in regional Australia were down in May 2020 by 33.6% compared to the same period last year. That's actually in comparison to capital cities that are actually down 52.1% in the same period. So it's probably no surprise, obviously, with what we've all been experiencing over the last 3 to 6 months, that that's had a massive impact on employment. But as we can see, at that point, regional Australia had been impacted less than the mainland capital cities. The largest numbers of vacancies in that report, as at May 2020, were actually in regional New South Wales and regional Queensland. So that's quite interesting to see that there's obviously still a lot of activity happening in those regional areas. And I know we're obviously going to hear about a lot of that today with the 6 speakers that are talking. The most in-demand workers are still the well-paid mid to highly skilled professionals and trades jobs. There's possibly no surprises there, but even though we're obviously in a period where there's going to be increasing unemployment, there still are skill shortages in a fair few areas. So despite COVID-19, it is still competitive for employers to source their skilled workforce. Now, Jobs in Central Queensland is an online platform, jobsincentralqueensland.net.au, and we're dedicated to Central Queensland, including obviously its major centres of Gladstone, Rockhampton and Mackay. But we are also part of a wider network of regional jobs websites called Job Skills Network, and we focus predominantly on regional areas. This just gives you a glimpse of the other regions that we currently cover. So we're in New South Wales, in the Central Coast, the Hunter Valley, the Illawarra, and also the Sunshine Coast. Our first regional website was launched in 2011 on the Central Coast of New South Wales. Our site is user-friendly and it's fully mobile, so you're able to access it anytime, any place, anywhere, and it's obviously available to job seekers, whether they're passively looking for other opportunities or whether they're currently between opportunities. And employers can post job vacancies, and we will then carry out a very comprehensive local advertising campaign via our network online, also via Facebook and via our database. This just gives you a map, so you can see obviously with the Central Queensland footprint where we are and where the current jobs are currently listed. So that's a live screenshot that was just taken earlier today from our Jobs in Central Queensland website. We have a very large audience, but the real focus, as I've mentioned, is on the local area, and it's on the local skills base. So if you are looking to tap into that, we'd ask you to consider our resources. Over 86% of our site visitors are local, and that's as per Google Analytics. But we also recognise that collaboration is absolutely crucial. So we're very keen to look at partnering with other service providers, whether they be recruiters, training providers, employment providers, or any other local specialists. Just as I wrap up, because we've obviously got to move on to the more important part of the day, where you get to hear about all of these fantastic projects, I did just want to extend a special offer to all attendees today and to your businesses. We're actually offering a conference discount of 20% on any of our job advertising and screening and shortlisting products and services. So if you go to our website, you can see all those products, and there's a code there which is just capital CIC for Connecting Industry Conference. If you put that code in when you're actually purchasing a job ad or one of our services, then you'll receive that discount, and that's actually going to run up until the end of August, the 31st of August. So thanks very much for your time, everyone. Thank you again for attending and for listening to me. I have just got a short 30-40 second video that I'd like to finish up with.
Thank you very much for that, Tim. And I think we didn't have the sound there on that one. It's all the fun games that we do have with Zoom as we move forward within this new environment that we're all working in today. It's been great, of course, to have Jobs in Central Queensland on board. And our next sponsor, which will only be a few minutes as well, and then we'll move on to our MC. I'll introduce her and then we'll move on to the presentations. So the next sponsor I would like to introduce is Fosroc. Fosroc is a global manufacturer of high-performance chemicals and materials for the construction industry. Please welcome Fosroc National Specification Manager, Repairs and Grouts, Hamid Khan, to the floor. What's he done? I know. Where's Hamid?
Hello, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's session. I would say well done for investing your time today. Without wasting my time, I will just straight on share my screen and will take you through some of the slides. I hope you can see my screen. And here you go. Fosroc Construction Solutions. Well, accelerated and premature deterioration is one of the biggest challenges that we are facing today for our concrete structures, you name it, building or bridges. And we have seen most of the structures being deteriorated within first 10 years of their life cycle, specifically in the building sector. The same applies in the bridges. This image is from last year while I was in Toronto, when we were free to move and fly. I hope this time comes soon again, where this distributed anode system was used a lot in this bridge refurbishment. Fosroc footprint is everywhere, in more than 20 countries. I don't want to talk about it. You can just visit our website and understand more about the company. But we provide solutions right from admixtures, additives, to concrete repairs, to waterproofing and protective coatings, some very high strength grouts for wind turbines and for other dynamic and static loading machineries, rail, cranes, tracks, epoxy grouts, as well as cement-based grouts. Joint sealants, waterproofing, as I said, protective coatings, and industrial flooring. We're not going to talk about it, of course, today. But the point I wanted to make here today is about that throughout the life cycle of a project, we face challenges, and a structure or the component of a structure is exposed to various environmental and deterioration factors during that service life, from initiation phase to the propagation phase. And as I said, today, concrete is being produced in nearly limitless combinations. You add single blend, double blend, triple blend, you have fly ash, GGBS, microsilica, you put cathodic protection, corrosion inhibitors, waterproofing, pore blocking, concrete additives, and so on. But my point is, this is a wonderful durability menu. But the point here is that we are living in a real world, and we still have these site problems and site issues. When the structure hasn't come into service for even a single day, and if we have these type of faults and defects in the new structure, these must be restored to its original strength and integrity. That's the challenge. And how we're going to do that? Innovation, the innovation approach. By the way, none of those pictures that I've shown you are from Google. These are from different parts of the world that I've been working through over the last 23 years. So coming back, that how we're going to address these issues? Innovation. Innovation is not only about product. You see, this is a 6-step innovation approach for restoration, right? Starts from the structural information and the root cause analysis, and then the management strategy and design of repair. And the repair comes over here. So the products comes literally over here, and then you have the final acceptance of the project. So my point is that when we talk about concrete restoration, it should be through a innovative approach. And EN 1504, I would say, is an innovative approach where you have these 6 project phases that should be adopted normally. EN 1504 was introduced in 2009, as you know, and it's a complete framework for the specifiers for the topic of concrete repairs and concrete protection. So, and then comes the innovations in repair mortars, and then comes where Fosroc we deal into certain products which have excellent compatibility with the parent concrete, low permeability. When we say low permeability, means against the corrosive agents like chlorides and carbon dioxide, water ingress. And when we say compatibility, that means the thermal coefficient of expansion, that means the flexural, tensile, and compressive strengths should be compatible as well, and the modulus of elasticity. And when we talk about long-term integrity, that means the long-term integrity of a repair mortar, that it should have an excellent bond strength and some excellent shrinkage values, low shrinkage values. So there are products that have been available today with some excellent cementitious cement replacement, complementary cementitious repair materials, such as slags, GGBS, in order to have high durability parameters and low permeability. And these are some of the materials also available in an extra build, high build. So a lot of innovation and research and development has been done in the repairs and protection space. And I am open to discuss that at a later stage. I would just run through last few slides on the wind turbine grouts that have been recently launched in the ANZ market. Fosroc Global has been involved here. We have more than 100 reference wind turbine projects. We are doing one project in New Zealand at this time, with more than 10,000 tons of grout have been provided. More than 2,000 turbines, more than 25 countries have been served. The Fosroc Global has been doing quite well. These are the project locations that have been, turbine grouts have been supplied. Project in Denmark, a project in India, we have Indonesia. This is a project with, I believe, Siemens Gamesa, if I'm not wrong, and project with Vestas, Convextra VG has been in Spain. We've been working with these manufacturers globally. And for more information, definitely you'll have access to our dedicated onshore wind turbine wind brochure. And finally, distribution. We are everywhere. We supply everywhere. Our distribution network is very intensive, and it covers all the geographic market, ANZ market, very well. And thank you all. I hope I did not exceed the time, Kieran. I would just like to thank you all once again. It's been great to sponsor the event, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of the day with some excellent speakers and their topics ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that, Hamid. And it is also great to actually have Fosroc on board. They're great supporters of the industry. And also for people that are in the app, go check out those sponsors. You'll find them in the app, and click onto some of the links as well, and it'll take you to find out more about Fosroc. Now I'd like to introduce you to the Connected Industry Conference Master of Ceremonies, Nicola Curtis. Nicola Curtis is a keynote speaker, facilitator and master of ceremonies for major industry events, and has over 18 years of experience working in the resource and construction industry. Nicola is a qualified trainer, accredited auditor and workplace rehabilitation coordinator, and has extensive experience in mining, heavy manufacturing, transport and infrastructure, including RTO management and oil and gas. Please welcome our MC to the floor, Nicola Curtis.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you're living the dream on a Thursday, and welcome to the Connecting Industry Conference. As Kieran said, my name is Nicola Curtis. I'm very pleased to be your facilitator and master of ceremonies for today's project presentations. As we are running just a little bit behind time, I won't talk for too long. I would like to introduce our first project presentation, Cross River Rail. Cross River Rail is 10.2 kilometres of rail line running from Dutton Park to Bowen Hills, which will include 5.9 kilometres of twin tunnels under the Brisbane River and CBD. Presenting for Cross River Rail this morning is Jeremy Kruger. Jeremy currently serves as the Director for Tunnel Stations and Development Package for Cross River Rail, which is Queensland's largest infrastructure project. Prior to Cross River Rail, Jeremy amassed over 20 years of local and international experience working for major engineering firms in Australia, the UK and Ireland. Without further ado, to present for Cross River Rail, please welcome Jeremy.
Okay, thank you, Nicola, for the introduction. I'll just bring up my slideshow for today. Okay, as you're all aware, the whole COVID world that we're in obviously presents numerous challenges for our industry. We're very proud that Cross River Rail has been able to continue without any significant delays over the last, over 2020. And in particular offer subcontract and job opportunities for all Queenslanders. So just going to give a bit of an overview today of what Cross River Rail is for those that aren't familiar. As you said, it's a 10.2 kilometre rail line, of which nearly 6 kilometres is twin tunnels underneath the Brisbane River. There's 4 new underground stations, 8 upgrades to existing stations, but also includes 3 new stations down at Gold Coast. The installation of a new train signalling system for the Queensland Rail network, and then future development of 5 station precincts. So very much a large infrastructure project spread across a wide geographical area. Some of the key benefits for Cross River Rail is it's a bypass of the current constrained transport network system in a Brisbane. So with the duplication under the river there, we'll be able to run more trains more often and have a turn up and go system for all commuters. We're creating over 7,700 jobs over the life of the project. We've already had 2,400 people working on Cross River Rail already, which is a fantastic achievement. We're looking to create 450 trainee and apprenticeship opportunities over the life of the project, of which we've had 160 opportunities already to date. In terms of subcontractors and suppliers, we've had over 400 subcontractors involved with Cross River Rail today. And we're very proud that over 90% of those are local or based in Queensland, which does include regional Queensland areas up at Central Queensland as well. There is certainly a government preference for local contractors, local Queensland contractors to be used on the project wherever possible. I'll come to more of those opportunities later on in the presentation. Just a bit of overview. So I mentioned there's 6 upgraded stations. So in the Fairfield to Salisbury corridor, to the south of Brisbane, we're upgrading 6 of the older stations in Brisbane. That's principally around accessibility upgrades, platforms, lifts. You can see some of the imagery there of those stations. So a wide range of trades and subcontractors required to do those station upgrades. For the underground stations, we've got 4 underground stations. The first one is at Bogger Road Station. That's a bit of a imagery there of what the Bogger Road Station will be. This will actually be South East Queensland's second busiest transport interchange after Roma Street once it's complete, where it connects the Cleveland, the Beenleigh lines, but also the new Brisbane Metro project with a significant link across there to the University of Queensland, which has a number of passengers every day. So we're quite excited by this precinct right at the hub of University of Queensland, the existing Eco Sciences, but also the Princess Alexandra Hospital and a new vertical high school. So quite a new hub there emerging at Boggo Road. The next station north is the Woolloongabba station. This is right next to obviously the Gabba station, the Gabba cricket ground. And we'll provide a real game day experience where you can come to the Gabba station, connect into the Gabba football and cricket stadium, It's also on the parcel of land, which is over 4 hectares of government land. So there's a significant opportunity there for future catalysts for urban renewal and growth in and around that station once the trains are up and running. As we head further north underneath the river, we arrive in the middle of Brisbane CBD with the Albert Street station. This will be the first new underground station right in the heart of the CBD in over 100 years. So it really does provide access into the CBD, close to the Myer Centre Mall, close to the Eagle Street precinct down by the river, and the new Queen's Wharf development underway up on George Street. It's the deepest of our stations, so we go down about 40 metres in the middle of the CBD to create an underground cavern there for the new station. And you can see in the imagery there some of the work that will be done to urbanise and pedestrianise the inner CBD with a green spine along Albert Street. Rome Street Station is our our last underground station in the CBD. So this will be Brisbane's new Grand Central, if you like. So it'll tie together the hubs of the existing Rome Street train station, along with the air train comes in there from the airport. There'll also be the coach terminal for buses, and the new Cross River Rail obviously connecting in there as well. We're predicting over 46,000 people will use this station every day. So Rome Street, for those that know, it's also a bit of an underutilised part of the CBD. So with the demolition of the Brisbane Transit Centre that we've been doing there's a significant catalyst there for urban renewal and new development there on the fringe of the CBD, on the Western Gateway. Heading further north, final new station or significantly upgraded station is the exhibition station. So the Ekka station, which would have been the Ekka this week if we weren't in COVID world, the Ekka station usually only operates for 2 weeks a year, but once Cross River Rail's open, it'll become a 365-day-a-year station. We're doing a major upgrade of that station, as you can see, and it'll become a new, in close proximity to the Royal Brisbane Hospital and connecting to some of the recent growth there in the R&A precinct, King Street and other developments. We've seen a lot of unit developments in and around that area. So having a new station there will certainly connect that in a northern urban part of Brisbane into the transport network. I mentioned earlier, so once we've built all of these stations and the rail infrastructure, there will also be significant chance for urban development in and around the precincts of those 4 stations. So you can see there some of the imagery of the work that the Delivery Authority has been doing with government to do some longer term planning around what development could occur in and around the Cross River Rail line. Cross River Rail is due to open in 2025, so we're looking to have these developments come on board in the decade after that. So we're currently engaging with industry, talking to developers, major contractors, financiers, operators and occupiers, and very much doing that engagement to look at what are the best ways to implement these precinct redevelopments and work out how we can underpin both the jobs and development that we're doing now through the construction of Cross River Rail, but thousands of more jobs over the coming decades. So keep an eye out for what those precincts and developments will do in the future decades. But I'll come now to what's on offer now through the project. In terms of the packaging delivery model, there are 3 major work packages that make up Cross River Rail. The largest of those packages is the Tunnel Stations and Development, PPP. That includes the 4 underground stations that I've just described, as well as the twin tunnels running underneath the Brisbane River. The second package is the Rail Integration and Systems Alliance. It includes the station upgrades to the south, Fairfield to Salisbury, as well as the exhibition station upgrade, and then upgrades to the existing Queensland Rail train stabling yards at Main and down at Clapham, and doing all the integration and interfacing to tie this new bit of infrastructure into the existing Queensland Rail network. The third package down the bottom there is what we're calling the ETCS package, or the European Train Control System. It's a train signalling package, so it's a new signalling package for the Queensland Rail Network. What the ETCS system will enable the Queensland Rail Network to do is to run trains at an improved efficiency and safer when they're in operation across the network. So that's been rolled out as part of Cross River Rail as well. So with those three packages, we have awarded all three of those contracts to major consortiums and contractors. Those contractors are for the Tunnel Stations Development, the Pulse Consortium, and that's principally led by the CPB as the major contractor in joint venture with UGL, Gala and BAM. The Rail Integration and Systems Alliance has also been awarded to CPB, and the other alliance partners are UGL and designers Jacobs and AECOM. And for ETCS signalling package, that's been awarded to Hitachi, working with Sistra as a major technology provider there. So they're the major contractor. They're obviously working to engage a large number of subcontractors and suppliers to work with them to deliver the project. So just a little bit about the scope of each of those packages. The tunnel underground stations, it is a PPP, so they also do have an asset maintenance component for the next 25 years. So facilities maintenance that includes the mech and elect maintenance, but also the cleaning and the general running and maintenance of the station for the next 25 years once they've been constructed. Under the RIS Alliance, their work packages are principally around rail civil works and rail operational integration and commissioning. So a lot of mech and elect around those systems type packages, control systems, platform screen doors, security systems. And with the Southern Station upgrades, also a number of general civil type works, including glazing, steel fabrication, those sorts of things. The ETCS package, obviously being a signalling package, is very much built around specialist signalling equipment. Part of that package does involve onboard fitment to the existing Queensland Rail rolling stock fleet. So the NGR trains that we're currently running on the network, they'll all need to be going through a cycle of fitment of new systems to run the ETCS, principally around telecommunications, network control, and those sorts of things. So from a timeline perspective, we are a couple of years into the project already. So we really kicked off way back in 2017 with the procurement of the project, working through to award middle of last year. This time last year, we awarded the major contract packages. So sitting in the middle of 2020, we have kicked off that the first two packages there, the Tunnel Stations and Development and the Rail Integration and Systems Alliance. The ETCS package has also kicked off, but they're very much in system design and development. And you can see there on the timeline, the main construction work will continue now through all the way till the end of 2023. And then we go into a period of testing, commissioning and train operations commencement. So 2021 is actually going to be our biggest year of construction, our main tunnelling year on the Tunnel Stations Development package, and also significant construction happening across the Rail Integration Systems package. A little bit of a progress update on what that looks like out on site around Brisbane. So on the RIS package, we've done a lot of site establishment. That image there is in our northern corridor, which will be the location of the northern portal for the tunnel where it pops out. That's just beside Victoria Park, wedged in there in the Normanby rail yards, next to the inner city bypass, with Brisbane Girls Grammar in the background there. So we've been doing a lot of drainage work. You can see some of the large culverts that we've been installing across the rail corridor there. Also retaining works and some structural protection to bridge piers. There's also significant work commenced in the RIS package at the train stabling yards at Main. We're doing a lot of demolition and clearing so we can build a new stabling yard. We've also commenced site establishment down in the south at two of the station upgrades we're doing down there at Fairfield. So the RIS package is very much around site establishment and commencement of those early drainage works at this point in time. Moving across to the tunnel and stations package, the Roma Street package. The Roma Street station is actually underneath the old Brisbane Transit Centre. We've been demolishing that through 2020, and in fact that'll be completely demolished by the end of this year. We've now commenced tunnelling at Roma Street, as you can see there in that image. We're about 70 metres into our adit, getting in underneath the existing Roma Street station and about to commence the major cavern excavation underneath while we continue to operate on Roma Street there. So good progress has been made on that package there. Moving back into our other key site in the CBD, the Albert Street site. So again, we took possession of these sites back in 2019 and have completed demolition. We've constructed an acoustic shed on one of the main sites. That's an image from inside the tunnelling shed. And you can see in the foreground there, another shaft has been dropped down to commence the tunnelling there. So we're at the base of that shaft now, and we're just commencing the excavation similar to Roma Street there for the adit to build the underground cavern in the middle of the CBD. So a lot of the focus on those two sites has been getting in to commence the early tunnelling. The actual station proper, which will be a major cut and cover structure, and then with the full fit out of that station, hasn't yet commenced. That'll be later in 2021. Moving across to Woolloongabba. So this was one of the first sites we started on. We did some early works here where we did demolition of the old Q-print building and cleared the entire site there. A lot of site establishment to set up for the tunnelling works, and you can see a number of the sort of site establishment buildings and set up across that site. We then commenced the piling in late 2019 and for the main station box, which you can see in the foreground there. And that piling's all commenced, and we've been excavating and anchoring to get down to the depth of the tunnels at Woolloongabba there, and we've had really good progress this year, as you can see. This is the main site where the tunnel boring machines will be launched from. The boring machines are actually out at Pinkenba at the moment, being refurbished here in Queensland, which is a great for the local industry. The main cutter heads have been fabricated in China, but all the backup trains and gantries are being fabricated here in Queensland. They'll be delivered later this year with the TBMs to be launched early in 2021. Our final site is down at Boggo Road. Again, we've completed all the initial piling works and we're well into excavation there for the last of our cut and cover stations, excavating and anchoring as we excavate out that station. A lot of shotcrete and anchor works ongoing at the moment. So that's where we're at. We're roughly 1 year into a 5-year project. So there is still a long way to go on the project. So how do you become part of this biggest project, infrastructure project for Queensland? So tunnel stations development is our biggest package. It is also the one that we're the most advanced. So a lot of the packages in terms of the preliminary tunnelling packages, concrete, shotcrete, piling, steel, reinforcing steel packages have obviously already been let and awarded and constructed. But we are now open for applications for a number of our building trades. So ceiling and partitions is one that is out to market at the moment. And we've got upcoming packages around structural steel, block work, electrical, and a range of other trades such as glazing, mechanical and plumbing will be coming to market over the next few months. So we're using the ICN gateway to register to use for our procurement. So to do that, you register at the ICN gateway. The best link to that is to go to the Cross River Rail website. There's a link there at the bottom, and head to the jobs and contracts page, and that'll provide a link straight into the ICN gateway. That's the industry capability network platform that we're using. Once you register, you'll be able to view all the packages in detail, and packages will continue coming up as they release to market. You can also submit in your details to the contractor if packages that you're interested in are not currently advertised. You can fill out a pre-qualification form, provide documents indicating what your capacity and capability to provide services are, your alignment with the government's best practice principles, sustainability practices and everything. Your application will be then be reviewed. You'll be advised whether you've met the requirements or whether there's any additional information. And then when an appropriate package becomes available that suits your business, you may be invited to tender on that package. There's also links on our Cross River Rail website where you can go to other government resources that will help you put together your tender. So for small to medium businesses that are not familiar with the procurement processes of major contractors like CPB, we've put some links there to help the smaller businesses on how to put together a standout tender, and that's really useful to help people to get into the industry. On packages that are valued over 200,000, there is a local benefit test. So Queensland Government is certainly encouraging local industry participation across all of Queensland. So there is a test for those larger packages. And then all going to plan. Hopefully the contract will be awarded and local subcontractors and suppliers will be successful. So as I said, more information available on the Cross River Rail website, and encourage you to follow those links to find out more information. On the RIS package, so we do have a number of, this package isn't as advanced in progress as the TSD, so we do have a number of upcoming packages, including some of those form, Rio, pour, concrete type trades. We've got some line marking for some roadworks, guardrail installation, also piling works as they get into their major piling packages, and drainage, as you can see there. They also have some buildings to do in the main yard. So we've got some block work, station facade, window installation, ceilings, claddings, and then metalwork and electrical services. So as you can see, a very wide spread of packages are due to come to the market over the next 12 months. We don't yet have the ICN gateway set up for the RIS Alliance yet. So we are intending to get there. We expect a similar pre-certification process to the TSD package, but in the first instance, we're encouraging all suppliers and subcontractors to submit an EOI to the email address you can see there on your screen. These slides will all be made available as well, so you'll have those links also in the slide packs that are circulated. Our final package is the ETCS package. It's very early days. We're still in design and development of that package. There will be localised packages around works in the rail corridor, steel fabrication, masts, things like that to support telecommunications. But for now, we're just encouraging people to submit any inquiries and opportunities on the ETCS project to the email on your screen there. So again, you'll have that in the slide deck at the end of the presentation. So just to wrap up, that's the Cross River Rail website for jobs and contracts. Number of some contract opportunities available there across the 3 packages. We're excited to offer that to not there's also on that page there is jobs available. So if you're not a contractor, not a supplier or a subcontractor, but you're looking to get employment as whether it be a tradesperson, apprentice, there is also links there for jobs on the project available on that website. So that's the presentation for today. Hopefully that's given you a good overview of the Cross River Rail project, our progress to date, and some very handy, useful links there of how you can get involved in the project. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeremy. That was really informative. We did have a question online from one of the delegation regarding engineering detailed design packages, but I think you've given us some really clear guidance on what work packages are available and how the delegation can actually find and locate them, or reach out to Cross River Rail and see if they can be part of the next ventures and ongoing development of the project. Further question is, do you know what is happening with the district cooling system that was potentially going to link Queen's Wharf to Cross River?
Yeah, the district cooling system currently isn't part of the design for the Cross River Rail. Each of our individual stations has their own individual ventilation, and it's all joined with the tunnel ventilation system for the overall project. So being a tunnel infrastructure, we have a number of requirements around fire life safety, and it's integrated as a tunnel project and not tied into other projects like other private projects like Queen's Wharf. So it's a standalone for our system.
I wonder, and I've had the opportunity to view the Woolloongabba site. I've been there,
Yep.
And you showed a really good picture, aerial photo of that. It is just a massive hole in the ground. I wonder, being such a visible project in the middle of the CBD, you have accommodation, you know, massive unit blocks around you, you have industry around you. Everybody is looking down on the works at Cross River Rail. What are the biggest challenges that you have as a project team to manage that community engagement?
Yeah, look, there's no doubt it's a very high-profile project in a high-profile location. Albert Street is certainly very high-profile with I think 4 unit blocks around. So we do have people looking down on the project all the time. And I think what that does is, you know, we've got a very strong community and stakeholder team that engage with all those residents and local body corporates. And I think the important thing is keeping people informed. I find the majority of the time people are just interested in the project. And if you actually reach out to them, keep them informed of what's happening. At Albert Street, we've set up recently a SMS where we notify them of when we're blasting, and that keeps them informed, and invariably people are more interested in the project rather than complaints and everything. But we've got some very strict guidelines around vibration, noise, working hours, and they're strictly enforced. And we believe it's working very well to date.
Well, community engagement's such a huge part, because if you don't get that right, I imagine you'd have a lot more challenges to deal with as you move through the project. We did have a question about direct contact with yourself, so I will remind the delegation that if you'd like to request a private Zoom meeting, please do so. And of course, you can find Jeremy on LinkedIn and his presentation will be shared. Thank you so much, Jeremy. I really enjoyed that.
No worries. Thank you, Nicola, and thank you everyone for this morning.
Okay, so I would like to draw your attention to our first breakout speaker that's commencing at 10 a.m. this morning, Murray Saylor, who is a proud Torres Strait Islander man whose passion and drive are focused on Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultural, ecological and economic sustainability. The topic of discussion with Murray this morning will be how you can achieve greater Indigenous business engagement in your local content strategies. So if you'd like to listen to Murray and engage with him, please join the breakout room commencing at 10. But for the main conference, our next presentation is from Acciona on the McIntyre Wind Farm. The McIntyre Wind Farm is proposed to be located approximately 50 kilometres southwest of Warwick and approximately 10 kilometres south of Carrara. The McIntyre Wind Farm is expected to have an export capacity of approximately 1,026 megawatts and up to 180 turbines. Presenting for Acciona this morning for McIntyre Wind Farm is Daniel Belton. Daniel is a senior engineering professional who has worked across a variety of sectors, including engineering, automotive and defence. His role as General Manager, Engineering and Construction for Acciona's energy business in Australia. Dan leads a cross-functional team of direct and indirect reports to design, develop, deliver and grow Acciona's local renewable energy portfolio. Please welcome Daniel Belton.
Thanks, Nicola, and good morning, everyone. As Nicola said, my name is Dan Belton. I'm the General Manager for Engineering Construction for Acciona Energy here in Australia. We're really pleased to be joining Nicola and Kieran and the Connecting Industries Conference here today. And yeah, happy to be joining you from lockdown. So today I'd like to give you a short overview of the McIntyre Wind Farm. The McIntyre Wind Farm Acciona announced in March this year, and I'll give you some of the highlights and I guess a little bit about Acciona and opportunities for you all to become involved with the project, which I know is why you're all here. So yes, I'll just quickly go through who we are and what Acciona are doing both here in Australia and globally, give you a bit of a background and project overview. We'll talk about some of the Queensland government involvement in the McIntyre Wind Farm, a little bit about our construction process and what's involved and what it is we actually want to build out near Warwick, some of the project benefits, and then, as I said, most importantly, for you all, some of the partnership opportunities. So who is Acciona? We're essentially started as a family-owned business in Spain some 75 years ago. I think our chairman is the third generation of family to look after the Acciona business. We are listed on the Madrid Stock Exchange. Globally, we operate in 40 countries on 5 different continents, and Acciona aspires to be a world leader in sustainable infrastructure solutions and renewable energies. A few of our facts and figures there. So we, in 2019, had an EBITDA of just over 1.3 billion euro, and a net sales of 7 billion euro. And you can see that the energy business, I'm pleased to say, does the lion's share of the lifting when it comes to earnings. Last year, we spent about 225 million euro in research and development. And as a business, we've been carbon neutral since 2016. Acciona really, I guess, we align our business with the United Nations sustainability goals. So we work across a number of infrastructure sectors, not just renewable energy, but we work in water treatment and wastewater industries. We work in civil construction and infrastructure, and we work in the transport industries. And we do that always with I guess, a mindset of what we can do, I guess, in the businesses that we develop and the projects that we take on to improve a sustainable society going forward. A little bit more about the energy business specifically, which is the part of the business that I'm involved in. So we only deal in renewable energy assets. We are a developer, so we develop our own projects. We construct our own projects. We do our own operations and maintenance projects, and most often we will, I guess, hold on to the asset for its full operating life. We work across renewable energy technologies. So you can see there with wind, we've got nearly 8 gigawatts of installed capacity in wind. And certainly by the time the current projects that are under construction globally are finished, we'll have hit 8.8 gigawatts. We've got just over a gigawatt of solar PV. We've got some hydro, some concentrating solar, and getting more into biomass. So our focus is really wind and solar, but we will take a look at, I guess, any renewable energy opportunities and technologies as they come forward. In Australia, we are spread around the eastern seaboard quite a bit. So you can see that we've got a range of operating assets. So we have 4 wind farms currently in operation in South Australia, Victoria, and New South Wales. We have some development opportunities around, and we're currently building the Mortlake South Wind Farm, which is 157 megawatts in Victoria, just near Warrnambool. That's under construction and is expected to be generating clean energy into the Victorian transmission network by early next year. We are, I guess, really making a push into Queensland, and we see Queensland as a tremendous growth market for us. So we have the McIntyre Wind Farm, which we'll be discussing obviously in a lot more detail today. We also have the Aldoga Solar Farm up in Gladstone, which we are currently developing and looking to be starting construction in the next couple of years. It's a 254 megawatts solar PV farm that we're also very excited about. We are expanding our footprint in Queensland as well. We will be shortly opening up a new and larger office in the Brisbane CBD, as we will be employing more people to I guess, support this massive build that we have ahead of us with the McIntyre Wind Farm. So a little bit about the McIntyre Wind Precinct, and we call it a precinct because it's actually 2 projects in one. So we've been, I guess, looking at the site since 2011. As Nicola said, it's just near Warwick, which is 1.5 hours from Toowoomba and about 3 hours from the CBD. It's a very attractive site from a wind farm perspective. It has an excellent wind resource. It is reasonably isolated, which can be favourable. It has proximity to a very strong grid connection. We connect into the Powerlink transmission network. There's a 330 kilovolt line between Millmerran and Middle Ridge, which we will connect into. There is limited vegetation, and it has reasonably good access from the Port of Brisbane, where all our oversized turbine components and other oversized infrastructure will be most likely delivered from. So we'll be accessing the site from the Cunningham Highway. We've been engaging the local community and monitoring the wind with meteorological masts on site for the last 6 years. We've been doing a range of studies, ecological, flora, fauna, spring studies, and cultural heritage and geotechnical studies over the last several years. And we are designing the wind farm to minimise the ecological impact as much as possible, and also to obviously allow our landowners to continue their agricultural activities on the site. I guess a few facts and figures about the project. So the project will be 180 wind turbines in total. As I said, there's actually 2 wind farms. There's a wind farm of 162 turbines that Acciona will build, own, operate and maintain for its life. And there's a further 18 turbine wind farm called the Carrara Wind Farm, which we're building on behalf of CleanCo. When it's completed, it will be the largest wind farm in Australia. The whole precinct itself, so the 2 wind farms combined, will avoid 3 million tonnes of CO2 being emitted every year as a result of electricity generation. It will create enough electricity for 700,000 average Queensland households. The turbines, which I'll go into a little bit more detail in a moment, but from the base of the tower to the top of the blade, when it's in the vertical position, is 229.5 metres tall. Just for a point of reference, Brisbane Tower is 270 metres tall. The site itself covers 36,000 hectares. A lot of that is agricultural land, as I mentioned. And as Nicola said in the beginning, the total capacity is 1,026 megawatts, which as a precinct will make it the 4th largest generator in Queensland. I mentioned a little bit about CleanCo. So Acciona was naturally really pleased to reach agreement with CleanCo, the Queensland government's newest renewable generator, earlier this year in March, to become the independent owner of the 100 megawatt wind farm, which they've decided to call the Carrara Wind Farm. So we'll be building that for them, and they will own that throughout the operation phase. That will be built at the same time as the larger McIntyre Wind Farm. For our wind farm, the McIntyre Wind Farm, CleanCo has agreed to an offtake agreement for 400 megawatts of that output for the first 10 years, which again we're really pleased with. So a great deal for CleanCo and Acciona. The project infrastructure is located within the Gondawindi Regional Council, and we're obviously working closely with them as we will be, I guess, having a very large workforce and an impact on the local council area. A little bit about the construction process for those that might not have been involved in a wind farm construction before. So the first thing to do is to build access roads. So obviously this is agricultural land. They're not used to having large plant and materials, and obviously the enormous turbine components that need to be delivered to site. So we'll be building access roads around the site. As I said, the main entrance being off the Cunningham Highway, about 45 minutes out of Warwick. The turbine foundations are then prepared. They're generally a concrete, steel reinforced concrete structure. Each foundation will be about 20 metres in diameter and approximately 3 metres deep. The towers are made of steel. They come in 6 sections and they're assembled on top of that foundation. And then on top of that, we install the main part of the turbine, which is called the nacelle, that has gearbox, generator, transformer and other electrical and mechanical equipment in it. On the front of that, we install the hub and the rotor and the 3 blades. The turbines are connected with a mixture of underground electrical cabling and overhead wires. There'll be 3 substations on the site. There'll be 2 for the McIntyre project and 1 for the CleanCo wind farm. And then we are pleased to be partnering with Powerlink, who will build 64 kilometres of 330 kV overhead power line and 2 greenfield 330 kV switching stations to connect into the PowerLink network. In terms of timing, so as I said, the project was formally announced and the deals with CleanCo were formally announced in March this year, but we have been working on this since 2011. We are finalising the planning and approval process at the moment, and we'll be lodging planning applications imminently, and also the connection to application to connect into the PowerLink transmission network is happening at the moment. We're right in the heart of our procurement process at the moment, and I'll talk a little bit more about how that's structured in a few slides time, but we will be, I guess, knee deep in procurement activities from now until early 2021. Site works will start around April, May 2021, and as I said, that will really be about establishing construction compound on site, and building the access roads we need to start bringing in workers, plant and material. Construction will start really in earnest in June, July 2021. It's about a 3-year build. We expect the first turbines to be generating sometime in mid to late 2022, and the last turbine to be constructed in late 2023. And it's a progressive connection process and energisation and commissioning process from there. So we expect to be generating clean renewable energy from late 2022, and we'll finish that commissioning process and be fully operational by Q2 2024. A few more facts and figures about the project. So both projects are going to utilise the Nordex N163 5700 wind turbine. It has a tower height of 148 metres. Each blade is made of carbon fibre and fiberglass, and is just over 80 metres long. Each turbine has a capacity of 5.7 megawatts. The swept area, which is the total area made by the blades as they rotate, and that's the amount of wind that the turbine can capture, is over 20,000 square metres. Within the wind farm itself, we'll be constructing 206 kilometres of internal roads. There's about 7.1 million cubic metres of cut and fill, 191,000 cubic metres of concrete, 155 kilometres of underground, 33 kV, so medium voltage cabling, and as I mentioned, 24 kilometres of overhead 330 kV transmission lines. There'll also be 2 operations and maintenance facilities built on the site, where we will obviously be running the operations and maintenance programs out of throughout the operational phase. Just like to touch on the benefits of the project and what we hope it will bring to the local community and to the wider Queensland industry. We're expecting a peak construction workforce of over 400 jobs for the site, in a range of both skilled and unskilled trades, plant operators, and obviously some very specialised turbine technician roles as well. For the operational phase, we're expecting 14 ongoing full-time employees to operate and maintain the wind farm and keep the turbines spinning. We have a target of 10% of the work hours to be made up of employees that have a home base within 125 kilometres of the site. That's something that's really important to Acciona and to CleanCo, and something we've done at the Mortlake South Wind Farm as well. We obviously want to maximise the amount of benefit we can give to the local region where we're installing the wind farm. We have another target that 15% of the work hours will be apprentices, trainees, or some form of on-the-job training. And we're expecting almost 500 million in contracts to be awarded to local businesses. In terms of the community and regional benefits, Acciona has made a commitment of $2.5 million in financial contributions to the local community. That can take several forms. That can be in the form of sponsorships or investments in local programs, events and local initiatives over the first 10 years of the project. Again, this is something that Acciona is very passionate about. We don't want to just come in build the wind farm and then leave again. We see that we are making an investment in the local community, and that we want to, I guess, insert ourselves into the local community and really partner with them for the full life of the project. We've also set a target of 2% of the work hours to be conducted by employees who identify as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders. I guess importantly, our landowners are key to the whole success of the project, and we're really pleased to have been able to partner with them and make agreements with them to have the wind farm on their land. This provides diversified income for them, and certainly, which is a very sensitive topic in this part of Queensland, but we do appreciate that this helps to drought-proof their operations and what they're trying to do with their agricultural businesses. We do expect there to be significant local businesses involved and investment across the Southern Downs, the Gondowindi and the Toowoomba local council areas. And I guess the reason a lot of you are here today, so a little bit about partnership opportunities. The way that the project is intended to be delivered is we're currently tendering to major contractors in a number of key packages, namely civil and electrical infrastructure, their full design and construct contracts. So they will take a whole wrap of key parts of that infrastructure that needs to be built. There'll also be major packages relating to the turbine installation and assembly, and also the logistics and transportation of oversized components. Obviously, those larger contractors, those major contractors can't deliver the works we need without a significant portfolio of other suppliers and contractors and partners to help them. So some of the areas where we see opportunities for other businesses is in vegetation clearance, bulk earthworks, roads and drainage, concrete and steel supply. Obviously with 191,000 cubic meters of concrete, we'll definitely be needing some help there. Steel fixing, quarry materials, electrical works, especially medium and high voltage, trenching and overhead transmission lines. Obviously all manner of construction facilities that we'll need during the 4-year build. Traffic management is very important, general building and construction, and of course workforce accommodation. In terms of how to get involved, as I said, involvement of local businesses, not just within the region, but across Queensland is really important to Acciona and to CleanCo. And to assist with that, we've set up an ICN gateway, and the link is there, so you can just search for the McIntyre Wind Farm. Potential delivery partners, suppliers, subcontractors are encouraged to register their interest in the project via this ICN gateway. And those details will be provided to the shortlisted major contractors for each of those key packages. Acciona is committed to supporting local businesses and suppliers to find opportunities to work on the McIntyre Wind Precinct. So that's all we really wanted to go through today. Just guess to summarise, so the McIntyre Wind Precinct, it's 180 wind turbines, 64 kilometres of overhead transmission line, and hopefully, as you've had a small taste for today, quite a large amount of ancillary infrastructure. It will be over 1 gigawatt, so as Nicola said, 1,026 megawatts to support Queensland's clean energy future, which we're very pleased to be partnering with CleanCo to help deliver. And we are expecting the creation of 400 jobs throughout the construction phase, and another 14 or so jobs during the operational phase. That's all we wanted to cover today, but Nicola, happy to take questions.
Thank you so much, Dan. Is Acciona going to be the final operator of the facility? Is it build, own, operate, or build, own, operate, transfer?
No, it's definitely build, own, operate. So Acciona is definitely a company that takes a long-term view, and as with our other assets, we do intend to own it and operate it for the full 25-year expected operating life.
Have all the design packages been awarded, or would there still be some available on the ICN gateway?
So the major packages, I guess, are in procurement at the moment, but certainly within that, it'll be up to those major contractors for how they decide to package it up. So there could be opportunities for further design work via the ICN gateway. So definitely encouraging you know, the whole range of potential partners to register on there.
Wonderful. I know the region for the proposed project build very, very well. It will absolutely change the landscape, but I'm very much one of those people that appreciate the beauty of industry. So looking forward to seeing all those 148-metre high turbine towers on my next drive out for a winery weekend in Stanthorpe, most definitely.
Very good. We're looking forward to it too.
Thanks so much, Dan, for joining us today.
Thank you.
For everyone's information, just before we go into our next main presentation, I'll draw your attention to our second breakout speaker commencing in the breakout session at 10:40 a.m. this morning, Joel Hillier from Hillier Consulting. So Joel has an extensive experience in facilitating complex high volume projects and transformation projects, incorporating people, process and technology. Joel's topic of discussion today will be about how you can better prepare for project changes and thereby reduce your risk of often very expensive and visible failures. So managing change in your business through those project capabilities and how to achieve best practice standards. So our next main speaker, presenting on behalf of Gladstone Energy and Ammonia Project, is Australian Future Energy's Kerry Parker. Kerry has nearly 30 years experience within the energy, mining and resources sector in Australia and internationally, including Asia, Europe and South Africa and the US. The Australian Futures Energy Project is proposing the development of the Gladstone Energy and Ammonia Project, which will provide annual production of approximately 330,000 tonnes of ammonia and approximately 25 megawatts net of electrical power. One that we've been looking forward to in the central Queensland landscape for much of the last 5 years. And I'm looking forward to the update. Welcome, Kerry Parker.
Sorry about that. I just realised I was on mute. That's a little embarrassing. Thanks for the opportunity to speak this morning about our company, Australian Future Energy, and our project, the Gladstone Energy and Ammonia Project. Our company was formed in 2014. Well, I guess the underlying asset of the company being the Australian ownership of what we think is some fairly unique above ground, and I stress the above ground aspect, coal gasification technology. Unique in that it operates extremely well and extremely effectively on lower quality high ash coal. So relative to our peer technologies, of which there are many, our technology differentiates itself in that we're not relying on export quality coal as our feedstock. So the two distinct advantages, one being the availability of coal. Most operating mine sites, be they thermal coal or met coal, have coal of this type sitting at surface or being returned to the pit as waste. So we've got an availability advantage, but we've also got a cost of production advantage in that we're buying what is a lower quality feedstock product for use in our plant. So we've got a distinct cost of production advantage relative to the other technologies. If we could just slip through to slide 3, if that's okay. Next one. Yeah, thanks. We're in a unique position with our project in that there has been, and we believe for some time will be, a significant shortfall of available gas supplies, both for use as gas itself on the Australian east coast, but also for use as gas as a feedstock in energy intensive projects, production of ammonia and urea and other necessary fertilizers and chemicals and the like. If we could skip to the next slide. The technology we've got, as I said, very unique in that it operates extremely well and extremely efficiency on lower quality high ash coal. It's commercially proven technology. It's operating at the moment at 5 sites in Asia. 13 gasifiers already up and operating at commercial scale. For us, we've been working on the project now for just over 3 years. And for us, for the project to be real, we wanted the project to be real. We've all of our group have been involved now for some time in resource projects, mining, gas, energy, and the like. And we've all been around projects that have been concepts on paper. For us, we wanted the technology to be very much real and operating at commercial scale. About 3 years ago, we spent about 2 or 3 weeks up in Asia, going through each of these plants in detail. The largest of those being at Yima, which is in Henan province in China, producing 300,000 tonnes per annum of methanol. Each of the plants built, maintained, operated to Western standard, very much the real thing. Not demonstration scale by any means, not pilot scale by any means, but full-blown commercial scale. And we were truly impressed with the technology that we saw. If we just move to the next slide, is a photo of the Yima gasification plant in China. The plant we're proposing in Gladstone will be larger in scale, larger in size than this one here, but look quite similar in design to the one that we're seeing here in China. Moving to the next slide, I guess at a high level, what is the project? In simple terms, we're going to take 1.5 million tonnes per annum of lower quality high ash coal, and through a gasification process, produce 2 product streams, one being ammonia and one being pipeline quality gas. There'll be about 230,000 tonnes per annum of ammonia and about 14 PJs of gas. All of the ammonia has been sold under long-term contract to a local industrial user, and all of the gas has been earmarked and sold to a local domestic gas distributor for distributed to the East Coast domestic market. For us, there are a number of building blocks or jigsaw puzzle pieces, as we call them, for putting a project like this together. As I said earlier, we've all been involved in projects like this over the years, some that are simply concepts on paper. But for us, from the very start, we wanted the project to be real. And to make that real, there had to be offtake. If we don't have offtake, we can't design a plant of this size to specification. And given the significant capital expenditure dollars involved, you simply can't, you can't finance a project like this without offtake. So we spent basically all of 2018, a little bit of early 2019, putting in place the offtake arrangements for the project. All of the ammonia will go to Orica for the Yarwun plant, which is about 1.5 to 2 kilometres from where our plant will be in the Gladstone State Development Area, all under long-term contract. Orica will also take about 1/3 of the gas for operation within their plant as well. And the balance of the gas is going into the East Coast domestic market. For us, in terms of the gas supply, that was also key for us in that, we didn't want to be seen, producing gas onshore and exporting it certainly for our first project. And for us, it was important, given the energy squeeze on the East Coast of Australia, for that gas to be going into the East Coast market. So offtake was key, and we put that in place. We acquired a project site in the Gladstone State Development Area in December 2018. It's about 120 hectares. It's in Landing Road, diagonally opposite where Cement Australia is. It's an excellent site, substantially cleared already. It was the old laydown area for Bechtel during the construction of the LNG plants 8 to 10 years ago. So substantially cleared already. There's a little bit more clearing to do, but nothing of any significance. No environmental issues, no cultural heritage issues that we're aware of. It's very well located. We've got the main Queensland gas pipeline at the boundary of the property. We've got the main water pipeline at the boundary of the property. We've got mains power directly at the boundary of the property. And importantly, we've got access to a rail loop directly across on the other side of Landing Road for use for unloading of coal and the like. So very well located, a great position for us. We have secured and are securing a number of coal supply sources within the local region. For us, we're managing that from a multiple supply source perspective, in that we want to, from a risk management perspective, have multiple feedstock sources, given the importance of coal as the main feedstock for the project. So we're going to have multiple mines supplying us across multiple rail lines to mitigate the risks of weather events, rail events, mine site events and the like. The technology is secured. We've got the Australian ownership and the Australian rights to the technology through our partner, our Synthesis Energy Systems, who is also a larger shareholder in AFE. And we're in the process at the moment of securing the global rights for the technology as well. From a permitting and approvals perspective, we'll look at that in a bit more detail later, but we were granted coordinated project status by the Queensland Government in August, September 2018, and we're into the EIS process at the moment. We'll look at that in a bit more detail shortly. One of the key things we did in 2018 was recognising, we've got a relatively small team. There's about 10 to 12 of us at the moment. And we brought SNC Lavalin on board on a pathway to EPC. Since that time, they've completed all of the design, costing and engineering for the project at their own cost and risk. Probably about $5 to $6 million worth of work that's been done on that project since that time, in return for the EPC rights to the project, subject to commercial terms, once we get to the final investment decision and development phase of the project. That's worked extremely well for us both from a technical resourcing perspective, but also from an overall credibility perspective, with financiers and both debt and equity that we're talking to, and having a partner of that caliber on board. If we can just move to the next slide. As I said, we were granted coordinated project status in 2018, given the, as it says there, strategic significance to the region and the state, and given the size of the project itself. The total capex is, development capex is around $1 billion. There's about somewhere between 800 and 1,000 direct jobs during the 2-year construction period, and about 250 ongoing direct operating jobs during the 30+ year life of the project. So a significant contributor to local employment. The flow-on effects for the indirect jobs aren't included in those numbers, but will be significant. So therefore, the flow on to the local economy is going to be significant as a significant employer. We've said right from the very start, and this is from the heart, that we want to employ as many local people as we possibly can for the project. And that was one of the reasons we originally chose Gladstone. It's for a number of reasons, but one of them is the skilled workforce that exists in Gladstone for a project of this nature, and a community that's accepting of large industrial developments like this. We've had very strong support from local, state and federal government on both sides of politics for the project, given not only the economic contribution and the jobs that go with it, but also the products that we're producing are products that are needed on the east coast of Australia that are in short supply. The ammonia, for example, will displace ammonia that Orica is currently importing partially from New South Wales from its aging Kooragang Island plant, but also imports that are coming in from Malaysia and other places. So we're now producing that onshore, and also through the additional gas we're putting into the East Coast gas network, supplementing the domestic supply. In terms of the permitting, the draft terms of reference for the EIS went out in late 2018. We received 17 responses to the draft terms. 14 of those were from government, semi-government organisations, either with suggested changes, which were mostly taken on board, or no comments or no concerns. We really only received one. What could be described as a negative response from a local group. project are not specifically aimed at our project, but aimed at how, in my words, how they felt they were treated during other development projects that have been developed in the region. And we've continued to work. We reached out to them at that time and continue to engage with them as we need to, to support the project. The timing on the project slipped probably about six to 8 months as a result of COVID and other activities. Obviously, the last 6 months have produced a world that is different to what it was 6 months ago. And I think everyone's sort of seeing that not only on their employment or business front, but on their home front. So the timing on that slipped. We were targeting to have the EIS completed in the late part of 2020. That's going to slip out to the second half of 2021 as a result, primarily a result of COVID and other related actions. We're in the process at the moment of extending that date through the Coordinator General's office. Not seeing any barriers to final permitting and approvals. As I said, we've had nothing other than what I describe normally as 110% support from local, state and federal government and the local community. And the other aspect is there's no federal government approvals required for the project. That was confirmed in 2018. If we can move to the next slide. As I said earlier, I won't dwell on this because we talked about it earlier. The key for us to make the project real was having offtake. As I said, if you can't design your plan, if you don't have offtake, you can't finance it. And for us, that was key. And the two off-takers we've got are both tier 1 ASX listed groups, with all of that product going into the local market. If we can move to the next slide, it's a photo and map of our site area. You can see to the left of screen the site area, which marked as Gladstone Energy and Ammonia Project, and you can see it's very well located in terms of access to infrastructure. Rail loop you can see directly, basically directly across the road, and access to mains power, Queensland gas pipeline and the like. And the ammonia will go by direct dedicated pipeline direct into Orica's current ammonia storage facility. So well located in a great area in terms of access. You can see to the photo on the right, the land is substantially cleared already. So taking away any other potential headaches or causes for concern around that area. If we could just move to the next slide, I think we've covered a lot of that already. As I said, we acquired the site in 2018, so we've got the site there ready to go. Use a lot of water, about 3 gigalitres per annum, the bulk of which is recycled. We've got a 25-year agreement with the Gladstone Area Water Board for the supply of that water. Coal feedstock, as I said, it's key. It's obviously the main feedstock, and we're looking for a minimum of 2 and probably 3 to 4 sources of supply for the project, just as a risk mitigation strategy. We'll have connection to the Ergon grid at the boundary of the property, but the bulk of our power will be produced on site from waste gases and the like. There'll be a little bit of export here and there, but the bulk of the power is produced on site for us. We just move to the next slide. Importantly, in our interaction with local industry in the area, it's obviously a major industrial area, and the airshed is obviously significant to everyone. There have been 4 priority pollutants identified, but in terms of all of our emissions, in terms of the NOx and SOx and all the rest of it, there's no NOx. The significant majority of the sulfur is captured, will be sold as a marketable product. And in terms of the fines and the particulates, they're all captured and recycled. So there's no emissions of that nature going into the atmosphere or into the airshed. So in terms of that, there's minimal of any impact on the Gladstone airshed, both in terms of the overall quality of the air in the area, but also in terms of other impact on other local industry. We move to the next slide. There's 3 main byproducts. Ash, as a result of using high ash coal, we've got obviously quite a volume of ash on an annual basis, about 300,000 tonnes per annum. And we are well advanced in, it's a very fine, very clean, very granulated, very uniform ash. It's not a fly ash or a bottom ash by any means, so it's quite usable. And we're working with one of the major building product companies at the moment on the offtake of that ash for use for production of building products, bricks, pavers, roof tiles, that type of thing. We've also done a lot of work with the state government around the testing of the ash and the quality of it for use as road base. So that's also an option for us for local councils and the like to take that for use in road construction and the like. All of the sulphur byproduct is captured. It's about 3,500 tonnes per annum. There's fairly strong local demand for sulphur in the form that it is, and that'll be sold into the local region. One of the other key areas, one of the other obviously areas is around CO2 that we're quite conscious of. We produce, based on the engineering we've done, we'll produce about 1.5 million tonnes per annum of CO2. It's all captured pre-combustion, so it's not, it's not going up the stack or anything like that. It's all captured. It's all high quality CO2, somewhere between 95 and around 98% purity. So very high quality, high purity level CO2. And if we just move to the next slide, we're developing, or have developed, or in the process of developing, a fairly active market strategy for that. We signed heads of agreement with BOC for them to take about 250 to 300,000 tonnes of that CO2 per annum for use up and down the Australian east coast as food grade CO2. There's a shortage of supply in that on the Australian market at the moment. So BOC were keen to be involved from that perspective. We've also entered into an agreement with a group called Mineral Carbonation Limited, or MCI for short, who have developed a quite unique technology that will take the CO2. They'll take up to about 850,000 tonnes per annum. They'll mix that with, they've developed a process and a technology whereby they will take that CO2, mix that with a mineral product called serpentine or serpentine, depending on how you pronounce it, again for the manufacture of building products. They've developed a demonstration plant around that in Newcastle at the moment, and are fairly actively exploring their opportunities to develop a larger scale plant in Gladstone, and certainly local state government, both sort of actively working with it at the moment to ensure we can secure that for Gladstone as well, which is great for us in that it finds a home and a market for the largest portion of our CO2, but also brings another industrial development into the Gladstone region. If we can just move to the next slide, and I'll talk about the next probably 3 or 4 slides together. Part of the other strategy around managing our CO2 has been our work with Coal 21, and they're looking at building a CO2 hub in the Surat Basin, about 300 or 400 kilometres to the south of Gladstone, and looking at pipeline opportunities for piping CO2 down to the Surat for use in enhanced oil recovery projects. So effectively, in simple terms, taking CO2, injecting that into old depleted oil fields, which there are significant and quite a number in the Surat and a lot further west in the far western Queensland, parts of South Australia. Big market for that in the US. In fact, CO2 is quite in short supply in the US as a result of the enhanced oil recovery projects. So longer term option for us, but one that Coal 21 and the Australian government are working on fairly actively. If we can move down to slide, I'll probably just skip ahead a few slides. If we can just move to the next one, please. In terms of slide 18, we've made significant, as I said earlier, it's a significant capital spend. It's about $1 billion Australian dollars all up. We put in place in May, June of this year a term sheet, an engagement letter for a $650 million construction finance facility, which will provide US $650 million, which will provide the bulk of the development funding for the project. We're also working fairly actively with NAIF, the Northern Australia Infrastructure Facility, around a debt facility from NAIF, somewhere in the order of around $250 million to support the development of the project. If we can skip to slide 20, longer term, just go to the next one if we can. Longer term, Gladstone's obviously been slated as one of the a hydrogen hub, one of the new fuels of the future. So for us, hydrogen is actually one of the products that we produce as part of the production process. So particularly given the work we've done around CO2 and the management of that, we think longer term expansion opportunities for the project, the opportunity to contribute in a significant way at scale in terms of offering hydrogen and so forth as part of that longer term solution. In terms of the next slide, at a high level, we're in sort of August 2020 at the moment. By the end of 2021, we will be in a position, or our target is to be in a position of having completed the EIS process and having all of our permitting and approvals in place, and be at the point of final investment decision on the project. Construction to start in late sort of last quarter of 2021. It's about a 2-year build, and then be in commissioning and start up and first production in late 2023, which ties in with what we've got in our offtake arrangements. As I said earlier, SNC-Lavalin will be more than likely the main EPC contractor. There are about 5 or 6 main engineering packages to the project. In terms of the overall block diagram and so forth, there's about 5 or 6 main engineering packages, all of which will be awarded to major contractors. But in terms of the subcontractor packages out of that, there's going to be fairly significant involvement for the local region, earthworks, civils, that type of thing. But also during the commissioning and operating and startup stage, significant involvement. Particularly around the skills required as part of the development phase in terms of tradespeople, engineering and the like. We want as much local involvement of that as we possibly can. And in terms of the ongoing operations of the project, it's a build, own, operate design model. We will be the owner of the project. It's not here to be get to a point and then sold off. We will be the operator of the project. And in terms of the ongoing operations of the project, we want as many, if not all, of those people to come from the local community and those nearby. The people can go home at night to their families or at the end of their shift. It's not a fly-in, fly-out operation. And also after as many local suppliers, on an ongoing basis as we possibly can as part of that community. There are some other slides in there that we haven't gone in through today, but just sort of conscious of time, but happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Kerry, and it's lovely to see you again. It has been a couple of years. Can you tell me, the gas that's going into the pipeline, is it made from syngas or methane?
It's made from syngas, but then it's cleaned up to get it to pipeline quality standard. We looked at a number of other project opportunities before we settled on Gladstone, where it would be a direct feed. Did a lot of work in 2017 with one of the major one of the main industry players in Gladstone, one of the refineries, at supplying them syngas, which is a lower quality gas, but was fine for their purposes. But we effectively manufacture a syngas, and the extra cleanup work is done to get it to pipeline quality standard.
So as you're gearing up to the construction activities in the years to come, how are you going to track all of those incoming materials and trucking, and your bulk earthworks are already underway? I imagine that the onboarding of materials and contractors will be a huge undertaking. How do you manage that process?
Yeah, look, that'll be done through SNC Lavalin, and they are aware of our desire for as many local contractors into the project as possible, and they are, you know, that's the basis on which they're working themselves. They've got their own systems set up in place, and once we get a bit further along, probably within the next 3 to 4 months, you know, there'll be additional information around that available on our website and on their website. We've already had a number of contractors and suppliers reach out to us already, which has been very heartening and very gratifying. There's obviously a lot of local interest in the project, not just for the development side of it, but ongoing operational services. So we're not quite there yet, but that's certainly something that will come in the next 3 to 4 months, and certainly be more active on our website.
And can I say that it's really lovely and refreshing to see such a major infrastructure project in Central Queensland favouring the Central Queensland supply chain. There's incredible expertise in the local area and some great opportunities for local businesses.
Yeah, that's right. As I said, look, I still remember late, probably third quarter of 2017, we looked at a number of project sites. Townsville, we looked at Gladstone. We looked for a little while at Victoria and South Australia, but couldn't quite get our head around the permitting requirements and the like. And we settled on Gladstone for a number of reasons. It's got the state development area that's set aside for projects of this nature. It's got a great local workforce that's skilled, that understands projects like this. It's got a community that's accepting of projects like this. You know, Australia needs, you know, despite all what you might read in a lot of the newspapers, Australia needs projects like this for manufacture of products into the local region. And I think as a result of COVID and the like, I think you're going to see more attention being paid to things like that. But also from a permitting perspective, you know, put simply, if we can't get a project like this permitted in Gladstone, we won't anywhere else. And it's that whole community workforce, you know, acceptance of projects like this that, you know, the east coast of Australia needs.
Well, Gladstone certainly is the industrial hub of Queensland, if not the entire east coast of Australia.
I totally agree.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I really enjoyed your update presentation from Australia Future Energies.
Thank you.
So you are tuned in to the Connecting Industry Conference, proudly sponsored or presented, by Resource Industry Media, proudly sponsored by Jobs Central Queensland and our breakout sponsors Fosroc and the South Pack Group. So I would like to introduce you to our second breakout sponsor, who will give a short presentation. If you would like to welcome Andy Stone from South Pack Group. And Andy Schoen, is the CEO of South Pack Group, as well as an active facilitator, lead auditor and consultant. And that's right up my alley because I'm an auditor as well. So he's one of my people. South Pack Group or South Pack International help organisations improve safety across 3 key objectives: human and organisational performance, management systems and leadership. So please welcome Andy Schoen from the South Pack Group.
Thanks very much, Nicola. Thanks for the introduction, and it's a pleasure to be here speaking at this conference. It's also very exciting to hear so many great projects happening right here in Queensland too. So one of the things that we kind of draw people's attention to is the current, and you could say, parlous state of safety. And anyone who's been involved in these types of large projects is going to know exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm going to just spend a couple of minutes sharing 2 stories, 2 case studies, and ask the question, is this really what safety is supposed to be about? So on the left-hand side, I've shown this picture all over the world in lots of different places, and people still shake their heads. This is the infamous Bunnings Gate story from last year. For those who haven't heard this story, this is a member of the public who went to a Bunnings, went to the sausage sizzle, as we do. They got their sausage, onions and ketchup on the top, but of course some fell out of the sausage sizzle, fell on the floor, and then someone else slipped on it. Like shock horror, every now and then these kind of things are going to happen. But of course, Bunnings, being a zero harm, all accidents are preventable type organization, had to do something about it. So what did they do? They issued a memo, a safety memo to all of their staff and volunteers across the whole of Bunnings, asking them, in future, Can you please ensure that the onions and the ketchup are put on the bottom of the sausage sizzle with the sausage on top? This reduces the chances of something being dropped onto the floor, causing a slipping hazard. Now, some people have suggested that's not too bad. It could have been worse. They could have banned the sausage sizzle. But of course, we know that in reality, that's never going to happen in Australia. We're not going to ban the sausage sizzle. Or maybe they considered it. But what do you think people in Bunnings thought when they read that memo? When they got that memo from the safety department saying, we are going to tell you how to appropriately eat the sausage sizzle and how to prepare and where the sauce and the onion should go. I don't think they probably got too many admirers or too many people within Bunnings saying, you know what, that's a really good idea. I wish I'd thought of that. It probably happened like never. How about this picture on the right-hand side? This is interesting and in some ways worse. This is a graveyard in Plymouth back in the United Kingdom. UK has a similar sort of setup to us in Australia in terms of how they approach safety. And the council, who have responsibility for this graveyard, came to realise that some of the gravestones were potentially unstable and they could fall over and hurt somebody, or worse if it was a small child. So what do you do about this? Well, of course, you do what any other self-respecting council does. You put a sign on it. You put a sign on the gravestone saying, this is unsafe. This could potentially fall on you. Now, aside from the fact that they've defaced these gravestones, what have they actually achieved? Probably not really a great deal. So why have both of these organizations done this? Well, it's because people feel they have to do something when something goes wrong, especially if they've got some statement, some grandiose statement around zero harm or all accidents are preventable. They're left with nowhere else to go other than to do something, which may be quite a useless intervention. In this case of the graveyard and the gravestones, people often say to me, oh, this is down to liability management. And you say, well, that's probably true. They probably think they are trying to manage liability. It's nothing to do with safety at all. But the interesting thing is, let's think about this for a moment. If one of these gravestones with a sign on it were to fall over, was worst case scenario, and someone was injured, do you think the presence of that sign has reduced the council's liability? Because the irony is they probably actually increased their potential liability. By putting that sign on it, they're saying, I'm aware there is a hazard, but the extent of my intervention is going to be putting a sign on it. So it's probably counterintuitive. It's kind of doing more harm than good. And in actual fact, what it does, it creates all types of flow-on effects, which have, have many detrimental effects in an organization. So these two different scenarios are issues we'd call, one on the one hand, trivial safety, focusing on stuff that really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, where we really will be better at focusing our efforts on things that are meaningful, the types of accidents, events, incidents that either bankrupt the organization or result in life-changing injuries or fatalities. We only have finite resources. You can't do everything. So you have to focus where you're going to get more bang for your buck. And on the right-hand side, paper safety, bureaucracy, systems, process, till it's coming out of your ears. But that all it does is create noise and institutional work, lots of safety work and activity, which doesn't actually provide any value to the organization very often. So you actually end up missing more important things. So the result of all this, as well as obviously employees who pull their hair out, and maybe management who secretly pull their hair out too, the whole thing, you end up with vast bureaucracy. And we see this in so many organizations we work with, huge amounts of institutional work, self-perpetuating systems that create work, but what value do they bring back to the organization? And it seems like these are almost sacred cows that can't be challenged, because if you do, oh, you're not committed to safety. Well, I don't believe that to be true. And I'm sure many of you intuitively don't believe that to be true either. This has been accompanied, this vast bureaucracy, which we've seen, especially in the last 10 years in Australia, by stagnating performance. Safety performance in Australia is not improving. So we're getting more cost, more bureaucracy, but in most organizations, a flatlining safety performance. So something's not adding up. This also leads to a disengaged workforce. People who just see safety as just this annoying thing that they have to do, they have to tick the boxes, or the people who turn up and they have to just kind of be on their best behavior while they're around and then go back to the way they're doing things beforehand. This also leads them potentially to a misinformed senior leadership on board. So we need good information. We need to know what's really going on to make the right decisions. And finally, liability and legal exposure. We do all these different things, put these bureaucratic systems in place to try and protect ourselves, protect the organization, protect the board and so forth, especially when you see legislation being introduced like industrial manslaughter and so forth. But oftentimes, and this has been demonstrated in law, oftentimes these things actually make us more exposed and more liable, because we end up having vast amounts of evidence that can be used against us when our systems that we have in place aren't necessarily followed exactly to the point. So how do we help? Southpack, there's two different brands that we're kind of here representing today. Southpack International, we provide services in human and organizational performance, HOP. You may have heard this termed as safety differently. This is about providing an alternative approach to managing safety, one that is about empowering and engaging people, one that's about making work better, not just trying to focus on making safety better. And this is then ties into the management systems that we provide and how we work on, and also leadership's role in all of this. Our second brand, Southpack Certifications, we're a third-party JASAN's accredited certification body. We provide certification in quality, safety, and environment. And you can see our websites there. Our approach we take in third-party certification, we call certification differently. It's based on excellent service and actually providing a value-adding certification service, not something which is tick and flick, turn up, kind of cursory wander around and then put your certificates on the wall. We want to add value back to your business. So that's kind of two of the things that we provide. We're happy to hang around, take any questions. Jeremy Fisher is also online today. He's our business development manager. So feel free to reach out to either of us. But thank you very much.
Thanks, Andy. I really enjoyed that. It's very common in all ranges of industry to put band-aid solutions when we've had an issue involving safety without looking at the inherent value of the solution that you're applying, or whether or not it's presenting further risk to your workforce and potentially community and environment as well. So preaching to the choir here on that one. And thanks again for being a breakout session sponsor, Southpack Group. We're going to have our 10-minute break now. If I have missed any of your questions for our speakers today, please remember that you can directly engage with them through the Connecting Industry Conference app. All of your questions, we will endeavour to have the speakers answered by end of business today, even post-conference. So please don't hesitate to keep sending them through and directly engaging with the people. We look forward to seeing you at 10 past for the rest of our presentations this morning. Welcome back to the Connecting Industry Conference, proudly presented by Resource Industry Media and sponsored by Jobs in Central Queensland. Please don't forget that we have our networking room where you can engage with other participants in the conference and build your supply chain connections. So important when you're going for major project opportunities. Our next breakout speaker, commencing at 10:20, is Mike Schwartz from the ICN Gateway, or Industry Capability Network. Mike is a seasoned leader, entrepreneur and strategist, and has held various senior positions in Europe, Africa and Australia, and has a diverse industry experience, skilled in procurement and supply chain, business planning, operations management, business development, as well as new product development with industry. His topic of discussion today will be, in the new world, what is our business as usual, current and post-COVID-19, something that's very topical for us all. But our main presentation here online with me is Inland Rail. Inland Rail is a project that will enhance supply chains and complete the backbone of the national freight network by providing a transit time of 24 hours or less for freight trains between Melbourne and Brisbane via regional Victoria, New South Wales and Queensland. Spanning more than 1,700 kilometres across 36 local government areas, Inland Rail will transform the way freight moves around the country, connect regional Australia to markets more efficiently, and drive substantial cost savings for producers and consumers. Our presenter for Inland Rail is Marnie Evans. Marnie joined the Australian Rail Tract Corporation in 2019 as the Director, Program Operations for the Inland Rail Program. A project management professional with more than 20 years experience in the engineering and construction industry, Marnie's knowledge of multi-billion-dollar projects spans alumina refineries, mine development and materials handling. Please welcome Marnie Evans.
Thanks, Nicola. All right, let's get sharing. And we're off and running. Okay, great. Okay, welcome. Good morning, everyone. And let's talk about Inland Rail. Thanks for the introduction, Nicola. Probably stole a little bit of my thunder in some fantastic statistics out there. However, I want to share much more with everyone about how we're connecting with industry. So firstly, Inland Rail. As we said, it's about connecting Australia's freight rail network. It's about being faster, safer, but most importantly, more reliable. And it brings a massive change to the supply chain network in Australia. So forming 1,700 kilometres, starting down there in Melbourne, and we're working all the way up through to Brisbane. This freight rail is all about connecting Australia in many parts. And if you look in there on the graphic that's shown there, it's really important to point out this connection to the east-west line. This is about bringing the rest of Western Australia through to the east and then being able to connect north up to Brisbane, south into Melbourne, and do it in a way that, as I said, it's faster, it's safer, and it's more reliable. So going on, our challenge in Australia today, freight transportation, it's all about road. It's moving freight on road. And as you can see there on the left, almost 70% of freight today is moved by road, the other 30% by rail. However, Australia's East Coast population is expected to grow by over 60% in the next 40 years, placing significant pressure on our freight network and that existing infrastructure. So what will happen? If we don't have rail, it goes by road. And that congestion in our capital cities is significant. So correspondingly, you'll see significant growth by say 2030. We'll still be at our 30%, but by 2050, while we will be moving to rail because we have to, that sort of level of freight movement by road is still significant. When you sort of compare Australia's supply chain network to the rest of the world, that ratio is absolutely the opposite. So while we're building Inland Rail, we want to reverse that ratio so that over time, as that freight demand grows, it means that it moves to rail rather than road. And that will make our nation safer, more efficient, by creating that modal shift. That means, and we put the numbers on it, 200,000 less trucks required on the road each year as we move towards 2050. And therefore we can still meet our freight demand as our nation grows, but we do it by rail instead of road. However, to do that, to support that shift, it's all about the customers and their drive to meet their requirements. So you've got to have a lower transit time and distance to drive that reduces operating costs. So today, wow, 33 hours to get from Melbourne up to Brisbane. We've got to get it to 24 and 22 if we want those express. So that lower transit time gets more value, what we call value of time, savings for those freight customers. And that lower transit time is absolutely critical for reliability. We need to be able to connect to those intermodal terminals and have our customers being able to be certain that when they need that freight, it's there to pick it up. So because of the significance of these factors, route selection has been a major factor in driving the overall performance of the Inland Rail business case. So to give you a bit of an example, even a relatively small increase in transit time, and our target is to have less than 24 hours. If we did sort of a bit of a alternative review of one of the sections there, you might see it, it's Narromine to Narrabri. Back in 2018, and it was about the Coonamble line there. And if we use that and just change the route, it added 24 minutes to the time, 39 kilometres to the distance. And, you know, you sort of, when you look at it, around about $56 million in cost. Not necessarily too significant in terms of actually the build, but when you push that and form it against our customer requirements and what they needed, it actually had a huge economic disbenefit. And when the numbers were run, as Inland Rail is looking to bring, you know, significant benefit to the nation, that impact was $450 million over the life of the program. And so while construction costs might be small, just a small increase in time, it actually makes a huge difference to our customers and their appetite to use this freight rail backbone to deliver their goods across the nation. But let's get back to Queensland. So when we want to meet our customer requirements in Queensland, it's all about the connections that we have here. And there's 4 of them you can see. The Western Line, which is about getting coal. You've got grain and livestock coming in. It's the Millmerran Line. It's about, again, grain coming in. Now this can be grain going to Brisbane or it could be grain going south. Similarly, we've got Goondiwindi and the Thallon Line. We've got a lot of grain and export that would come in through there. And lastly, you can see the Warwick Line in there, which joins up at Gowrie Junction. And there's a potential for small volumes off this line, but again, that's what matters in a backbone. It's about getting to that small, to that regional communities out there. There was an Ernst & Young study done and released this year on the regional benefits of Inland Rail. And it found that we could have an additional 13.3 billion in increased gross regional product over 103 local government areas either side of the alignment. That regional investment, opportunities in food, fibre, of course, good old resources, manufacturing, transport and logistics can actually leverage those Inland Rail operations in the future. And it's about connecting to the regions that drives the value of freight rail. What's important about Inland Rail is that 70% of the freight carried on there is actually destined for domestic markets, for the likes of you and me, and the products that we're going to use in our day-to-day life. And that's a really important factor to note about Inland Rail. It's about what is the benefit to us as the people in Australia. So this is our, so Inland Rail, yes, it's happening. It's well and truly underway. This slide has been sort of shown on, and this graphic is quite common that we use to sort of share our status with industry. But we see 13 projects there across 3 states, 5 of them which are in Queensland down the bottom. And I want to sort of point out here that whilst it might not look that things are moving, they have. Construction is progressing towards completion on Parks to Narromine in New South Wales. And there's a lot of good news stories. And one of them is what I'm going to share here about that economic benefits and that connection with industry. And also, we're ready to award one of the packages that is coming on Narrabri North Star, and that's very quickly going to move into construction as well. And then what's really more important, I need to draw your attention to it, is for Queensland. 4 of our projects are reaching the end of reference design. They're working to progress the EISs for public exhibition and moving through and into project approvals and market readiness. And this is really important because, as I need to tell you now, Queensland, it's time. Queensland can expect a huge shot in the arm. We know it's about 7.2 billion at the moment and more than 7,000 construction jobs. And so where we are today, our plans, so it aligns with our plans for significant construction activities in 2022. And while that's the bulk of that cash injection, however, for many Queensland regions, we don't have to wait till 2022 to start feeling the benefits. Even though we haven't started breaking ground in Queensland, we're already delivering significant economic stimulus in the Darling Downs and Lockyer Valley. And so how do we know this is actually going to happen? So what I want to do now is I want to take a step back and look at the Inland Rail sort of program wide. And this is where our data will speak to our connection with industry. So today, so at this time, when we've got government, you, business, us, the community, are crying out for new jobs, new investment in regional communities. As at the end of July, we had over 300 live contracts worth more than $800 million on the go. So construction contracts with a combined worth of over $310 million. We've got material supply contracts worth over $140 million. That includes ballast and capping, culverts, turnouts, concrete sleepers, and all important, the rail. Technical services contracts for feasibility and detailed design worth over 160 million are also underway. And whilst these are key engagements for delivering rail, and yes, they're big numbers and they are what draws a lot of the attention. For me, it's actually the investment in the other service providers that actually feed into achieving that project success to date. Accommodation, fleet vehicles, surveyors, geotechnical services, building supplies, training, education supplies. So we're located locally and therefore we hire locally. We've developed great relationships with government and industry representatives right across Queensland. And most importantly, our industry partners are doing the same. So let's take a little bit of a top-down sort of dive into that. Whilst the benefits along the alignment are occurring, it's nationwide we're actually engaging to deliver inland rail. So on a large and complex project like Inland Rail, there's supply opportunities for a wide range of contractors, subcontractors and suppliers. We engage directly with the major contractors, and as you can see, there's a lot of them around Sydney, who in turn do business with smaller suppliers and contractors to deliver that variety of services and goods and works. And so they end up essentially completing the supply chain across the nation. So here in Brisbane, again, there's all these providers up and down from the Gold Coast right through to the Sunshine Coast. These service providers are providing services along the entire alignment. So we're committed to using local suppliers for skills and labour where possible and ensuring that environmental, community and economic considerations are actually embedded in our procurement process. So here on our Parks to Narromine project, which is, as I said, nearing the end of construction, you can see all the suppliers, whether they be contractors, whether they be consultants, whether they be providing our accommodation on site for either ourselves as Inland Rail or our contractors, and in this case, Inlink. So supply chain manager Jason Matten's going to discuss, there's a breakout session with him on how businesses can get involved in our program. Jason will outline our commitment to local content and highlight the available opportunities, where to register interest, and more importantly, what businesses need to do to get prepared. And this is why I want to highlight here that let's not forget that the benefits they don't stop at award, they continue. It's the long haul that provides the success for Inland Rail and the nation. It's what matters, it's why we care, and it's our objective. And to be specific, it's our expectation that when we partner with industry, we deliver more than a freight rail backbone. We deliver benefits today and for the future of Australia. And here, this is what we look at absolutely every month. How can we provide the benefits of Inland Rail, whether it be the number of people that are working locally, whether it be the number of trades that we've employed, whether it be the number of local businesses who have actually supplied to the project. It's, as I said, what matters to us and what should matter to you. So let's get back to Queensland. Are we getting ready for Inland Rail? Absolutely. So we opened our first office in Brisbane back in February 2016. We had a big move at the end of the last year and consolidated everyone into a new building in Ann Street. And the number of employees here in Brisbane sort of says 263. It's a little bit misleading because when we include our service providers, our consultants and our subcontractors, we have over 400 people in the Brisbane office alone. Our initial Toowoomba office, as you can see there, actually opened in September 2016. And last month, we moved. We opened a new, bigger, as needed, office. We also opened our Gatton office in May of last year, and our 4th regional location was established in Goondiwindi last month. So our commitment to ensure we incorporate local knowledge gets better outcomes for Queensland, and it's really important for us, and it's a value. So let's kind of move on. Southern Queensland focus. This is sort of nearing our end. We've been engaging extensively and respectfully with landowners and stakeholders along the alignment in Queensland. And working with that, we're aiming to deliver the best infrastructure. But there's more. Expectations translate into a boost in the Southern Queensland GRP of $3 billion during construction and the first 50 years of operation. So opportunities beyond Inland Rail are significant and they support that customer requirements to connect South Queensland regions to Inland Rail. I'm going to draw out one example here, which I found quite interesting when I went looking into this, is that the Toowoomba Wellcamp Airport services 2 Cathay Pacific flights and a Singapore Airlines Airbus every week. And that means every exporter in the region can use that airport to export tons of local produce to the Asian markets. And those planes are still flying. So we need to ensure that we provide that connection to the regions and ensure that we get that backbone up and running and that we support our regional communities. So where does that leave us? Well, with all 3 states, governments and the Commonwealth signed up for Inland Rail, we do have political certainty, but we need to be confident in our outcomes. So each of you tuned in today represents the critical cross-section of industry that must work together to make the most of these opportunities. We need future collaborative and collective thinking on how to have the opportunity to deliver what governments, industry and regions expect. The Australian government has actually a commitment of $44 million in the Inland Rail Interface program to enable local communities, industry, to sort of maximise those benefits. And there's 4 proposals that have already been assessed and fast-tracked. So we've got the Gulgandra-Canamble line upgrade. Yes, it's in New South Wales. Improving the road rail interface at Narrabri. Yes, it's in New South Wales. And we've also got the one of the Barradine grain silos. But really what's important for us is investing in the viability of the Lockyer Valley Inland Rail connection. And we're committed to connecting with industry in all ways. So I'm going to remind you again that we've got Supply Chain Manager Jason Matten talking to us about how businesses can get involved in this once-in-a-generation project. And as I've already said today, Queensland, it's time for Inland Rail. So thanks, Nicola. I'm going to hand back to you, and I'm hoping that there are a pile of questions.
Thanks, Marnie. There's always a pile of questions. So 7,000, circa 7,000 jobs during construction of Inland Rail. What a boost to the economy.
It certainly is. I would say, from my perspective, it's rather scary. It's a lot of people, and it's going to take a lot of coordination to make that happen. But that kind of investment is significant, and everyone can be a part of it.
Absolutely. And given the state of our communities across all jurisdictions at the moment, it's definitely construction activities like Inland Rail and the resource sector that are keeping Australia, trying to keep Australia in the black.
Yeah. I think what I appreciate is, having a construction background, Inland Rail is where it's going. It's going through some really great places in Australia, and who wouldn't want to be sort of, working in the Lockyer Valley on this, or working out in Gatton or Toowoomba. They're great parts of Australia to be, and I'm sure that we will have no shortage of people signing up.
Absolutely. With everything that's happening in the southern states, from Queensland, what we've seen developing really rapidly in the last couple of weeks with the pandemic, how is that impacting on your project operations and your team management?
Great question. It's been challenging. However, as we're so diverse, we've got teams already in New South Wales, so they're staying in New South Wales and supporting those projects there. Similarly, in Queensland, as you could see, a lot of our work is still in the sort of that readiness phase, which requires sort of the bulk of people here in Queensland. So we've managed to just absolutely keep moving and continue and have continued. To be honest, we haven't stopped. There's a lot of tired people racing towards the finish line. And as we've got to keep reminding ourselves, given the length of our program, it is a marathon, not a sprint.
Is there any plans from the Commonwealth Government to replicate something like Inland Rail across the West Coast?
Not that I'm aware of. I'd certainly have to have a look at what we need. I know that the freight connection, that Trans-West line, is heavily used when we've got the West working really, really hard. So I'm sure if that sort of picks up over that way in the coming decades, there'll most certainly be something on the cards.
Thanks so much, Marnie, for your time today. I really enjoyed your presentation.
Thanks very much, Nicola.
If you'd like to know more about Inland Rail and procurement opportunities, our next breakout speaker commencing at 12 p.m. is Jason Mantan from Inland Rail. He'll be talking about all things procurement for the project. So if you'd like to enhance your opportunities within that space, please join him in the breakout session from 12. You are tuned in to the Connecting Industry Conference, proudly presented by Resource Industry Media and sponsored by Jobs in Central Queensland. Our two breakout sponsors are the Southpack Group and Phosrock. Our next primary speaker is presenting, or two primary speakers, from Siemens Gamsa, presenting on the Forest Wind Farm project. Forest Wind Farm project is a large-scale wind farm proposed for Queensland's Wide Bay region, and it's valued at up to $2 billion. Subject to final approvals, the project will generate numerous benefit and business opportunities and could create around 440 construction jobs while boosting renewable supply for Queensland's future energy needs. Our two speakers today are Alex Graham, the project manager, and Andreas Gonzalez, the procurement manager for Forest Wind Farms. Alex Graham, the project manager, has been with SGRE for 1.5 years and in Australia for 4 years, originally from the UK. With a master's degree in mechanical engineering and an extensive experience in large-scale multi-contrast utility construction projects, Alex will be presenting from the project manager's side of the undertaking. Andreas Gonzalez is the procurement manager for Forest Wind Project. He joined Siemens earlier this year and is recognised as a senior commercial leader with a strong procurement experience and a deep understanding of project management and a passion for sustainability, something very close to my heart. Please welcome project presentation from Forest Wind Farm.
Good morning. Thanks very much for the introduction, Nicola. That's really great. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I guess just to kind of welcome everybody, and it's really exciting to be able to join the Connecting Industry Conference here today, and heard about some really interesting projects that's happening around Queensland and the country. So really excited to be involved. Before I start, I'd like just to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. In particular, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which Forest Wind is proposed to be located. These are the people of the Cubby Cubby Nation and the Butchulla Nation. We pay our respect to their elders past and present and extend their respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. Okay. So today I'm just going to go over a bit about the project, the key parties involved, and then I'll hand over the project to my procurement manager, Andreas, who will run through some of those procurement processes that I'm sure you're all eager to find how you're going to get stuck into the project. And then we'll share some questions that you have at the end. All right. So Forest Wind. The site itself will consist of up to 226 wind turbines, and that's generating up to 1,200 megawatts of clean wind energy. Just a few more than the Acciona project that got presented here today. We'll be connecting at the Reluga substation, just south east to the site, and that's a major distribution point in the electricity network, so it's a really good, strong grid location. Really importantly, we're looking to employ directly up to 440 jobs during the construction phase, and during operational, 30 to 40 jobs directly and indirectly for the life of the site. We're looking to build the full 1,200 megawatts, as I said, and that'll be built through stages, with the largest stage being built first. Now, given the size of the project, it will obviously put pressure on the electricity prices in Queensland. And that's because it will contribute to a quarter of new generation to meet Queensland's renewable energy targets. So it's a great renewable project to be involved in. And that will be around about a tenth of Australia's renewable targets. Just to put that into a bit of perspective, we'll be offsetting around 2.6 million tonnes of CO2, and that's the equivalent of offsetting 1 million cars, so taking 1 million cars off the road. And once built, the project will generate enough electricity to supply 1 in 4 homes in Queensland when generating its full capacity. Okay, so the project location. The project's located about a 2-hour drive north of Brisbane in the Gympie and Fraser Coast council areas. And it sits within an exotic plant plantation, which is on state forests. So the project itself, a bit of extra complexity to other wind farms that have been built, which are typically on more flatter terrain. We have to actually work within the existing plantation and the infrastructure that already exists during construction and through operations. So from a construction and design point of view, there's a few extra kind of complexities that make the project really interesting. Now, as I said previously, we have natal title landowners across the site, and these are the Butchulla First Nation country, which is situated in the north part of the project, and the Cubby Cubby First Nation to the south. As already stated, there'll be an overhead transmission line built from Reluga substation, connecting the site to the grid from that southeast location. Now, as no one thought wind farms would be built in foresty areas, we've actually had to put a new bill through Parliament, and this is called the Forest Wind Development Bill. Now, that was under discussion over the last few weeks, and we actually got some great news yesterday that had been passed by the Queensland Parliament, which is a really good positive movement for the project. Okay, so in terms of the contract structure and who are the main parties for Forest Wind. So Forest Wind project is co-owned by CleanSite, which is a Sunshine Coast-based renewable energy company established in 2010. And the other partner is Siemens, which hopefully you all know. Now, they formed Forest Wind Holdings in 2018, who is the proponent and developer for the project. They have exclusively engaged us, Siemens Gamesa, as the engineering, procurement and construction, so it's the EPC company, as well as the operation and maintenance contractor for the life of the site. We will in turn, of course, have numerous work packages subcontracted out for the project. And again, Andreas will go through all about that information shortly. And as I said, we're the exclusive EPC partner. So all of those subcontractors will be contracted direct with Siemens Gamesa. Project timelines. So in terms of the project timelines, planning and approvals are well underway. We've got the development application approved. And as I just said, the new Forest Wind Bill has also passed. We've commenced the concept design of the site. So this is starting to really understand some of those technical complexities and needs of building a wind farm within a forestry. And the procurement process has been kicked off with expressions of interests now open, which Andreas will again go over shortly. Target financial close for the first stage is Q3, Q4 next year, so 2021, with construction commencing soon after that. Now, construction period, 2 to 3 years, and then operations will commence for up to 30 years, probably halfway through that construction period, once we've got turbines operational. So now I just want to kind of go through who Siemens Gamesa is, just for those who maybe aren't so familiar with us as a business. So Siemens Gamesa, we're a global leading provider of wind power products, so wind turbines, and service solutions for those wind turbines in that renewable wind sector. Globally, we are #1 in offshore wind, so we have extensive experience in that space, and also #2 in onshore wind and that service element. Now, we were founded back in 2017 as a merger of Siemens Wind Power and Gamesa. Now, they joined forces, and globally, we've installed over 103 gigawatts of wind power. So it's a great achievement for us, building all of those projects globally. And we also have 24,000 employees with an annual revenue of around 10.2 billion euros. Now, it is important to note that Siemens Gamesa is a standalone business to Siemens, even though we are 67% owned by Siemens. On this slide, I just wanted to show what we've done in Australia so far. So we've undertaken about 6 projects as full EPC roles in Australia, and about 4 projects in New Zealand to supply and install. We've got offices based predominantly in Melbourne and Sydney, but of course we'll be increasing our footprint in Queensland as we get closer to construction for Forest Wind and the team grows. And finally, of course, we're really excited to have our first Queensland project in Forest Wind. So I just wanted to talk now a little bit about what Siemens Gamesa's mission, vision and values are. And firstly, before I dive in, I just want to explain why that's important. Because we really expect our supply chain to emulate our values, and it'll become clear as I go through this over the next couple of slides. So firstly, our mission. So we want to make real what matters, and for us, that's clean energy for generations to come. Now, our vision is to be the global leader in the renewable energy industry, and that's really driving that transition towards a sustainable world that's going to be really, really important. Now, we feel we can do this through our visions. So our vision and key values are, firstly, to be results driven. Okay, so ensuring that results are relevant, delivered on time, really important, and to the appropriate cost. And we feel that we can do that through innovation in our solutions, both externally and internally. It's important that we're customer focused so that we can deliver what our customers want. Because if we can't do that, then, obviously we've failed. So it's really important that we're customer focused. It's also important that we have impactful leadership by inspiring our people and championing the culture through empowerment. And that obviously goes hand in hand with the people, making sure they're motivated and engaged. And finally, we value the importance of that individual, which really ultimately makes organizations succeed. Okay. Our health and safety and environmental requirements are very important. And that's because we're a renewable company. We pride ourselves on providing clean energy, and that really goes hand in hand in making sure we've got a good health and safety and environmental standards. So our goals in this space, firstly, achieving 0 incidents. So again, reducing illness in the workplace, improving our CO2 footprint, and minimizing the environmental impact of what we do, as well as improving energy efficiency. And we feel we can do this through awareness, learning and ownership, prevention, standards, and of course, continuous improvement. So again, our focus is to provide a healthy workplace, importantly, providing safe working conditions, preventing harm to our employees and of course our suppliers. And finally, minimizing the risk of pollution by providing the systems to manage and control it. Again, these are really key focus areas for us, and we expect our supply chain to have the same level of attention. Just to summarize then, so Siemens Gamesa as an industry, we have 3 core market areas: the onshore business, where we've installed 87 gigawatts, offshore, and of course the service department. And again, Siemens Gamesa will be undertaking that long-term servicing role as well as the construction. So it's important for us to really get those needs in operation filled during that construction stage as a bit of a springboard for those roles. All right. So now I'm just going to hand over to Andreas, who will go through the procurement approach for forest winds, which is really why you're all here today. So I'll just stop sharing my screen and hopefully that'll hand over to Andreas as well.
Thank you, Alex, and hopefully everybody can hear me. I am now looking to how to share my screen. I just found it. The screen is hopefully being shared now. And hopefully everybody can see what is going in my screen. Can you see my screen correctly? Okay. I hope the answer is yes. Very good. So thank you, Alex, for introducing the project and talking a little bit about Siemens Gamesa. It's absolutely fascinating to be listening to all the projects that are right now under development and under consideration in Queensland, and it's terrific to have the opportunity to talk in more detail about forest wind and the opportunities that we are bringing in the next few months. So in terms of project objectives, yeah.
Andrea, sorry to interrupt. I can't see the screen. I just wanted to check Nicola and the group. Can you see the screen?
No, I'm sorry, Andreas. I can't see it either.
Okay.
If you wouldn't mind trying that function again, please.
Okay, apologies. I thought it was happening.
It's working now. Thank you.
Sorry, thanks, Andreas. Over to you, man.
Okay. So you are looking at my screen. Yeah, good. Is it better? Is it all good? Okay. So in terms of project objectives, our first objective is reinforcing.
Sorry to interrupt again. You're sharing your notes page. Are you able to share the screen with the full screen?
I love this. Yes, we should. Share. This is what it is. Share.
There we go. Perfect.
Thank you. Okay. So going back. So project objectives. The first one is and in line to our company objectives and in line to our philosophy and values is to ensure that we minimize and we really achieve zero incidents. That will be our goal. And again, as a company that takes a lot of pride and emphasis in sustainability is that we minimize any environmental impacts. The second set of objectives, and this is specifically from a forest wind project perspective, is that we want to achieve the lowest cost of energy. And for anyone that has been in the industry for a long time, that's a term and it's a concept that is very strong in being able to get projects and to go through projects successfully. So we want to minimize the capital costs, as you can imagine. We want to minimize operational costs, and we want to develop deep solutions. And innovation will be a key element as well that will enable projects like these to be successful and deliver the lowest cost of energy. And thirdly, and very importantly as well, is we want to maximize the job creation. And by job creation, the way we define this is we want to ensure that we engage with the local industry. And by local industry, we mean companies within the White Bay region. By local industry, we also talk about companies in Queensland and companies within Australia. And we want to maximize the job creation and the opportunities for the Aboriginal people with a specific emphasis on the traditional owners. And this is, as Alex mentioned before, the traditional owners of the land where the project will be developed. And this is the Bachula and the Kabi Kabi people. From our perspective, it's very important from a forest wind perspective, from a Siemens Gamesa perspective, that we provide, from our contractors, that we provide a full, fair and reasonable opportunity for all capable and competitive local industry to participate in the project. And that's our commitment, and that's something that will be drive very strongly through construction and execution as well. So what I want to show you now, and hopefully technology works this time, and is a little video that shows, and some of you might have seen how the construction of a wind farm happens. So this is a short video that presents the construction of wind farm in Spain, like a year ago. So let's see if technology works. And I am trying to get the sound to work. Okay. So in case, so this is the foundations. You can see the hard stand. This is the logistics services, getting the blades on site. The blades will be around 84 meters in length. The different components, this is the steel tower. This is the nacelle. The installation.
Yeah, sorry, Andreas, I can't see the video from my end or the sound.
Andreas, I think we might still be on your presentation screen, not the actual video. We're stuck on that front page. Perhaps if you try and start it again.
Absolutely. So I can tell you I have been listening to the video all this time. So let's see if it works. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Andreas, I think let's just
let's keep
on.
going. Absolutely,
Yep.
no problem. No problem. Yep.
Okay. So we can see your screen now.
Thank you, Alex. So what I wanted to show you in the video was some of the high-level infrastructure, and you can, as Alex mentioned before, the expectation is that we will be building up to 226 turbines. That basically means we will have to install 226 turbines. We'll have to set up the foundations for up to 226 turbines. The hard stands, this is the area that is around the turbine that enabled us to effectively do the installation and to do the maintenance as well later on in time. We'll establish 2 or 3 substations through the area of the project. Alex mentioned before, there will be up to 64 kilometers of overhead lines. We will be doing the reticulation within the turbines and so on, and that's includes as well the installation of high voltage cables and optical fiber cable as well. In the wind farm, because it's being built within an existing forest, we'll be utilizing the existing road network, and the road network will have to be upgraded, and that basically means up to 250 kilometers of roads will need to be upgraded. We'll have to establish some construction compounds. There will be a couple of operational compounds that will stay, after construction is finalized. Something quite unique and specific of this project is we are expecting or we are considering, and this is still under consideration, to have the towers in which the nacelle and the blades will be mounted, to have these being built using concrete. So if that's the case, we'll be setting up a concrete tower manufacturing facility close to site or within the site. That will require a lot of concrete in batching services and also for the construction of the foundations and so on. There will be plenty of logistics services required to, specialized logistics services to get, the components, but also for containers and so on, construction services and operational maintenance services. And wind farm like this, we'll typically be operating for 25, 20, 30 years. and there will be many related services, required after the wind farm is being built. A comment that is in there, we've got a lot more details available in the ICM page. So my invitation to you guys is that you have a look and you consider some of the information that is in there. What we want to share in here is, what is a typical subcontractor hierarchy that happens in a project like this? And this is not exactly how forest wind is going to be done. We are still considering that. This is how typically, subcontracting happens in a wind farm like this. So there will be some core contracts, and some of those contracts will be like the logistics elements, the construction of the tower, the installation of the different components, the balance of plant, BOP is balance of plant, and there will be an element of balance of plant for the civil works. There will be an element of balance of plant for the electrical works, operational maintenance, and then we'll have other services. Most likely, we will be managing directly some of the other services to ensure that we maximize, participation from some of the specific businesses and some of the local communities as well. And across the board, we expect to have, this definition of how and where and who to engage based on the input that we get from the expression of interest process that is up and running as we speak. As I was saying before, that's where we are. We are in the expression of interest phase. After we conclude the expression of interest phase, we'll go for request for proposals, and we might have 1 or 2 rounds for these requests for proposals. We're going to be selecting our subcontractors, and our subcontractors most likely will follow a similar process that we are following right now. So it's quite important that we get to know who you are, that we get to understand your capabilities, and as we mentioned before, one of our key objectives is to maximize, local content and to maximize the participation of the local industry. So in order to do that, we need to know about the capabilities and experience of your businesses. So what are the core packages that we have released as part of the expression of interest process? So we got a set of core packages, and this set of core packages relates to a civil balance of plant, electrical balance of plant, cranes and installation, specialized logistics, wind turbine, and this is kind of the concrete towers that I mentioned before, the assembly of core wind turbine components, and another core package that will be keeping up until the end of the year is the one for traction holders opportunities. The core packages, 1 to 6, as you hopefully can see in the screen, they will be closing late this month. So we still have, a few more weeks before we close what we call the core packages. Then we got the what we might consider potential subcontracting packages. So civil balance of plans, electrical balance of plans, operation and maintenance, and other. All these packages are be closing or will be open until the end of October, with the exception of OEM and the traditional owners that will be open until the 31st of December. In terms of others, we got many specific services like charters for hire, pest control services. Some of the smallish packages are part of the other. Our invitation to you is, when you have a look to the 22 packages, you are not able to find the right package that is specifically linked to your scope or to the capabilities of your business, that you select kind of the bigger package that your services or products relate to, and you submit your expression of interest related to that bigger package. If you go to the bigger package and the other package and still cannot find it, you still have the option to select all the other. So we are quite confident that with this we should be able to identify and reach to the vast majority of businesses to understand their capabilities and understand what they can do and how could they potentially support the forest wind project going forward. In terms of timeline, reinforcing a little bit what Alex said before, and the slide that we mentioned before in terms of the expression of interest process, it was open late in May. It will be, for the core packages, we'll be finalizing by the end of this month. Then we're going to refine the procurement strategy. We will define the vendor list. The expression of interest is open to everybody. When we release things to market, will be to the selected vendors that we believe they will have the capabilities and the experience to deliver to the scope. So it's quite important to know about your business to be able to be shortlisted. With this shortlisted, we'll be releasing the different tenders. as we progress to the process. Highlighting or reinforcing some of the core packages will be the towers, and this is the concrete towers specifically, the civil BOP, electrical BOP, and crane and installation. So from the expression of interest process, we are using ICN, and there is a specific page for ICN. So our invitation is that you, go to ICN and register your interest in the Forest Wind project. As I said before, closing dates is the 31st of August, depending on some packages, the 31st of October and 31st of December. And really, it's quite important that we get quality information to be able to be considered in the next phases. So what are our shortlisting considerations? Number one is about the capability and experience, that matches the scope. No surprises there. Demonstrate the commitment to HSE and innovation. Again, no surprises, but we're going to go in a bit more depth in this. Local content and indigenous employment. Again, no surprises, but we'll go a bit more deeper in this. And of course, the quality of the company profile and your capability statement. So we will also ensure that the shortlisted suppliers are invited to request for proposals, and all the other vendors that have registered that we believe should be made visible and available to the tier 1 vendors, that they get that information as well. So we say that QHSE was an important component. Alex already mentioned some elements about what does it mean safety for us, what does it mean environmental protection for us, what does it mean health from us. And those are, we want to see that, companies can demonstrate their commitment to safety, environmental protection, and health. Some of you will become familiar with the 10 life-saving rules. And some of you also, as we progress with the project, will become engaged. And hopefully many of you already are engaged with CM3. That's our pre-qualification tool that we use, to initially understand the capabilities from an HSE perspective, mainly from some of our suppliers. In terms of local content, we say we want to maximize the local content, and we make the point that this relates mainly to the White Bay area, then Queensland and then Australia. And we also highlighted the opportunity to promote employment opportunities for the Kavichali, Kavi, and Butchula Nations people, First Nation people. So what we want to do ensure in here is that we develop an expression of interest package for the traditional owners, that we also will be setting some targets, and those targets of employment will be also shared with our subcontractors to help us to deliver on those requirements and in these expectations as well, and that we also maximize business opportunities for the traditional owners to be part of the project as well. A comment in here as well. I mean, we are encouraging people to think on how to maximize local content, but the call is not to approach the traditional owners group at this stage. When any required, please help us to facilitate some of this engagement. This is what, when you go to the ICN project page, this is what you will see. You will see the packages, as we mentioned before. It's clear when they open, when it closes. So our invitation is, if you haven't, is to go register and send us an expression of interest to ICN. So in summary, there's a lot more information in the page through the forestwind.com.au and also in the forestwind.icn.org.au. 22 expression of interest packages available. Our focus, as we said before, is in QHSE, local content, expression knowledge involvement, and we invite you to submit your expression of interest before the closing date. So that concludes the presentation. So back to you, Nicole, where Alex and myself will be, answering some of the questions that you might have.
Yes, please, gentlemen, stay on the line. So all of the information for project expression of interest is on the ICN gateway, that's right?
Correct.
So if we needed to determine what insurance requirements we might need as a supplier for the project, we could get those details there as well?
Okay, so the answer will be yes and no. So each specific work package and each specific requirement will have specific needs, and one of them might be in relation to insurance. Those requirements will be part of the request for proposal as we release them to the market. Of course, we have clear expectations in terms of quality, in terms of commitment to HSE, in terms of commitment to safety and so on, in terms of insurance, and that will be defined as we release the request for proposal in the process later on.
Are there any opportunities remaining to engage with civil, structural engineering and digital software solutions for the project, or are we more moving into the stage of direct supply construction activity?
Alex, you're nodding.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, I'll take that one. That's a good question. So we've all I'd ask is please register your interest on the ICN page. The design elements of the project, we still haven't let those key design packages. That'll come through later in the year and early next year. So if you see yourself providing a service and you're not quite sure where it fits within the project, please register that we do have that other package within ICN. So please register there, because we're still in that early expression of interest stage. It's really important for both me and Andreas that we throw the net as wide as possible to try and capture as many local industries and people and organisations as possible through that ICN portal. And then we'll use that portal as we go through letting major packages, and all those details will obviously be shared with our kind of tier 1 subcontractors as well. So you may not hear direct from us, it may be one of our subcontractors in the future. So please just register in the ICN portal. And again, if you can't see a place where your industry may fit, we do have that other package to try and capture everything else.
And you did mention, gentlemen, that potentially not to directly engage with the traditional owners. So if we had an Indigenous business or skilled Indigenous workers that wanted to engage with the owners' teams, would they do that via the same process?
Yes, absolutely. So we have a specific traditional owners package within the ICN portal. So it's really important at this stage that we try and capture as many organisations, especially traditional owner organisations. But because we don't want the local traditional owners to be bombarded with lots of companies at this stage, please, I just express, if you are a traditional owner company or individual, please register your interest for the project on that ICN page.
Andreas and Alex, thank you so much for your time today. Forest Wind Farm sounds like a very exciting project. I look forward to seeing how it develops in the future.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
So you are connected to the Connecting Industry Conference, proudly presented by Resource Industry Media. Please don't forget our principal sponsor, Jobs in Central Queensland, is offering a 20% discount for all conference attendees on their range of services. And you can reach out to Tim O'Brien through the conference app. You can also still catch some procurement opportunities in our breakout room. Jason Mantan from Inland Rail will be in the breakout room until 12:25. But our next primary presentation is the Townsville Energy Chemicals Hub. Dr. Stephen Grocott is the Chief Executive Officer of Pure Minerals for the Townsville Energy Chemicals Hub, or TEC. Stephen most recently was the Chief Technical Development Officer for CleanTech, a company focused on the development and commercialisation of technologies for metals recovery and industrial water treatment for drinking, agricultural, recreational and industrial use. The TEC project will supply value-add products into the high-growth battery metal sector. TEC project will process high-grade lacerite ore imported from New Caledonia and produce Class 1 nickel cobalt hydroxide precipitate, MHP, which will be refined to produce high-purity metal chemicals for use in battery sector, namely high-purity alumina, HPA, nickel sulfate and cobalt sulfate. Please welcome our speaker from the Townsville Energy Chemicals Hub, Dr. Stephen Grocott.
Thank you very much, Nicola. I'll immediately start sharing my screen to, pardon me, hopefully make sure that that is going well. Jump in if it's not appearing correct for all of you. So thank you very much to the sponsors, and thank you to Kieran and all the other organisers who have pulled this together. Looking at all the projects that you've seen this morning, it certainly is a great time to be in this industry. There's a lot of exciting things happening.
Excuse me, Stephen, I can't see your screen.
Okay, let's try again. How's that, Nicola?
It's coming online now. We can see the PowerPoint presentation. Thank you.
Are you seeing it in presentation mode or?
I am now. Yeah, it's perfect. Please continue.
Thank you for that. That's the most important slide, probably. If you go out and buy shares in Pure Minerals afterwards, good on you, but I haven't asked you to. I think I win the prize this morning because I am probably the person who's been the shortest time in the organisation that they're representing. I joined Pure Minerals about 3 weeks ago. So I'm a veteran of 3 weeks. So I use that as an excuse in advance, just in case I can't answer some of the questions. But I have been following Pure Minerals and this technology for producing battery grade chemical feedstocks for many, many years in my career. Just a quick overview on the project. It's unusual in one respect, as we know. A lot of mining mineral processing projects in Australia dig up the dirt, and Australia is very good at doing that. There is a lot of technology in it, but they export it for the value adding elsewhere. In the case of the Tech project, we are importing a high-grade ore from New Caledonia, and we will be processing it through a value-adding process in the Townsville Energy Chemicals Hub. So we import the ore to a processing plant, and we go through a couple of different refining steps to produce high-purity products. And if you see down at the bottom there a 4N HPA, that just means 4 nines high-purity alumina. 4 nines means 99.99% purity, which is why we're lazy and we say 4N. So all of those are growth products particularly in the electric vehicle space, but lithium-ion batteries, powering our phones and PCs and everything else as well. But the main game is in electric vehicles. This just shows a projection, a sort of a central estimate. It's not an ambitious projection on the growth in demand for the main component of electric vehicle batteries, and that is the nickel. You hear of lithium-ion batteries. It's actually nickel by mass is the biggest component. The growth that you see there is the equivalent of around about 80 of the Tech projects by 2027. So that just gives you an idea of the size of this market. It is massively, massively growing. There are gigafactories springing up all over the world. You may have heard of the Tesla Gigafactory, which is one of the biggest, but there are well over 100 of those in design and under construction around the world. And they all need nickel and cobalt and lithium and graphite to power the electric vehicle industry. So this project is located just south of Townsville, about 40 k's south of Townsville. The ore will be imported from New Caledonia, as I said, from long-standing miners in this game. They were the same miners who were supplying the Queensland nickel operation for many decades. It's quite a favourable location, and it's got access to water and power and gas and all the things that we need, and obviously to road transport as well. I'll just very quickly step through the process. I won't spend a lot of time on it. So the ore is leached in an acid, nitric acid, and we produce as a byproduct iron oxide. Some of you may have seen that we've developed an MOU with Korea Zinc for the joint treatment processing sale of the iron oxide product. We produce an aluminium byproduct, which is refined into high purity alumina. We produce a nickel and cobalt product that we refine into high purity nickel and cobalt sulfate. And we produce a magnesia byproduct, which is sold into various industries. We recycle virtually all of the acid, about 98% of the acid, back to reuse in the process. So what you see is something very unusual here. It's industrial ecology to a degree. Most nickel production operations produce actually more tons of waste than the ore in which they process the nickel and cobalt from. And I've got a quote here from one of the world's leading nickel production experts. He said to me, "It would be a breakthrough to have an economic process that generates a fraction of the mass of ore as waste instead of 120% of the ore mass, while only targeting 1 to 3% as payable metals. For the long-term sustainability of mining and metals, we need these kinds of breakthroughs." So what you see in red down the bottom is not just one product, the nickel and cobalt, but all of the byproducts that we produce as well, and a very small amount of residue. So that's something that's quite different for our project. This is roughly what it will look like. Ore comes in and works its way through leaching and refining steps. So we completed our pre-feasibility study earlier this year. We've got to kick off the approvals processes later this year. Got some more work to do with the council around the zoning of the Lansdowne site south of Townsville. We're hoping to commence construction around 2023. We're currently reviewing schedules as everyone else is. There's obviously been COVID effects for us, as there has been for everyone else. In construction, around about 1,000 jobs, and in operations, around about 110, 120 direct employment. In terms of value, the pie chart shows the breakdown of our production. So nickel and cobalt and high purity alumina and the iron and magnesium byproducts. And you can see it's a fairly even split between the nickel, cobalt and high purity alumina, the major products. The total project value is about 550 million Australian dollars plus about 96 million contingency. So it's a $650 million project. So quite a significant investment. That's again another image of what the site will look like. So the ore, as I said, comes from New Caledonia. It's about 0.6 million tonnes a year of ore into the port, and B-triple trucks will transport that to site 40 k's to a maximum of about 1 truck per hour. Hopefully, people who are interested in supply to this project can see this. If not, you will get a copy of the presentation afterwards. But in addition to the ore, we will be a user of gas, 4 to 5 petajoules a year. We'll be a user of nitric acid, sulfuric acid, hydrochloric acid, water, power, diesel, and we have the transportation of the products, the finished products, to the end user markets around the world. In terms of the expenditure, the 650 million, it's split across the areas that you can see there, the various processing plants, services, consultancy, engineering studies. We are yet to choose our definitive feasibility study partner, but that will be run out of Brisbane probably, and that will be around about a 1-year exercise. Where we're at in the development of this stage is we're currently finishing off some pilot plant test work. We've brought in a lot of ore from New Caledonia that was being processed in Western Australia in preparation to feed into the pilot plant that you see there. That processing of the ore in preparation for that has been hit by COVID. The company that was doing that has shut down. We have to find somebody else to do that. But the pilot plant is just under 1,000 times scale operation, 1,000th scale operation. It's located at the CSIRO in Perth. They're one of the world's leading research and test work groups for mineral processing, an excellent organisation. The pilot plant was initially used by a company called Direct Nickel. Direct Nickel developed the technology that we're using. It's an excellent technology compared to the alternative technologies for nickel production. They developed this technology. We have a license from them to use that on this project. So once we get over the COVID delays, we'll be operating that pilot plant for several months, and then we will commence our definitive feasibility study. That pilot plant will also produce market samples that can go to end users, battery manufacturers, electric vehicle manufacturers, etc., etc. It will also produce the residue. As I said, the residue is a very small part of our production, unlike other projects. That residue, we're in discussions with some research groups about evaluating it as a construction material or as an engineered landfill where you can grow crops and vegetation on it. So we may actually become a zero waste site, which would be even better. A little bit about the company. We're a small company. We have a market capitalization of around about 10 million, and we're trying to do a project which is 650 million. So you can see that one of our biggest challenges, biggest objectives at the moment is the fundraising and investment. And that's one of the reasons why I joined Pure Minerals, to help on that journey. It's a very attractive technology. The main technology that people have been developing to produce nickel and cobalt sulfate for the battery market has been something called high pressure acid leach. There have been about a dozen of those plants built over the last couple of decades. Of them, only 2 out of 12 were economic successes. It's a very difficult technology to get right. Some have done it well. Some will no doubt do it well, but it's a very challenging technology. The technology that we have acquired from Direct Nickel avoids many of the problems that the high pressure acid leach has. And as I said, it doesn't produce very much residue or waste. In fact, we produce byproducts, which we also sell. The timetable for our development, and as I said, this is under review at the moment. This was developed pre-COVID. Our piloting, I should say that the calendar there, don't get confused, they are actually financial years. So 2021, we're about at the end, just after the end of Q2 2021, or sorry, at the start of 2021 Q1, where the red line is. So we are planning on piloting test work through until first quarter calendar next year, commencing our definitive feasibility study later this year or early next year. That will run for about 3 quarters. And then in parallel, we conduct the permitting and the feasibility studies, discussions with stakeholders, etc. Marketing and offtake is a critical issue. We heard earlier about the ammonia project. Without offtake, these projects don't go ahead. So we're in negotiations already with major battery manufacturers about participating in the project or taking product. Final investment decision, we hope, is just over a year away. Construction, about 1 year. During the definitive feasibility studies, when we would like to be talking with a bunch of suppliers, we'll do that in conjunction with our feasibility study partner, who, as I said, is yet to be selected. But you've seen many of the opportunities for supply of fabricated equipment. Most of the equipment on site is not super specialized. So it's agitated tanks and pipes and heat exchangers, all of the usual sort of industrial equipment that is available all throughout Queensland, Central Queensland and North Queensland. So nothing fancy that has to necessarily be manufactured overseas. So our advantages, we have a very high grade ore supply, we've got good financials. The technology, which is very clean, is very important to battery and electric vehicle manufacturers these days. The greenhouse footprint, the sustainability credentials, some of the projects that are being proposed in some countries to produce nickel for batteries will involve tailings disposal into the ocean. You know, that might be acceptable in some countries, but if you're a European vehicle or a Korean or Japanese or North American electric vehicle manufacturer, you don't want nickel sourced from a project where tailings are being dumped in the ocean. A lot of the cobalt comes from the DRC, where there are legitimate projects there, but there's also child mining, which is not good for your green credentials, and it's obviously and ethically pretty dangerous and unpleasant thing. So we have a great technology in that regard. We've selected the location in Lansdowne in discussions with the council. The battery market fundamentals are absolutely fantastic. You couldn't ask for a better time to be doing a project like this. The demand for nickel and cobalt sulfate for batteries is gargantuan. The conventional nickel supply industry can't supply that. It supplies nickel in the form that goes into stainless steel. That cannot be converted into battery feedstocks. The demand is for battery feedstocks, so it's a perfect time to be producing these high purity chemicals. We have an experienced management team, you know, apart from myself, my colleague, John Downey, who's the managing director. We've both been associated in this industry for many decades. You can probably tell that from my grey hair. I've been in the game for many decades. It's great to be involved in a project where we are value adding in the country. We are accessing some of the best technology and suppliers in the country. And it's a great victory when we pull this thing off. And as I said, re-energising North Queensland, it'll be really nice to put this project into the Townsville region. It's a great region, great location for it. And thank you all very much for your time. Thank you, Nicola.
Thank you, Stephen. It is wonderful to see your innovation, particularly in the environmental space, as you're designing the features and the manufacturing components of the project. Something that I know has been discussed at federal level extensively is bringing more manufacturing to Australia. Do you foresee more projects like this from Pure Minerals?
Yes, I mean, it's a very good, you ask a very good question. We're starting this project relatively small. As I said, we're a small company, market capitalisation 10 million. The ideal size to build this project would be probably 2, 3 or 4 times bigger. But being a small company, we've selected a fairly small project. But if we bring in a partner who says, no, I need a lot more nickel than this, then we will just build this thing bigger. We need to make that decision fairly soon. But regardless, if we go at this size, which is about 6,000 tonnes of nickel a year, that's about 1/3 to 1/4 of what a single gigafactory needs. Success in this means we just duplicate it, we replicate it. There's a lot of very high-grade ore available in New Caledonia. And elsewhere in the world, including some ore bodies in Australia that we could process. I'm not sure if I'm still sharing my screen or not, but
yes, you are.
If you see that's a picture of a Volkswagen plant in Germany.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt, Stephen. I'm actually looking at the last slide, so you may need to click on the slide you're referring to.
That's okay. You can keep looking at the last slide. I will talk to this. There's the largest vehicle manufacturing plant in the world is in Zwickau in Germany. It's a Volkswagen plant. On the 26th of June, it produced its last internal combustion engine vehicle. It is now 100% electric vehicle. So the world's largest plant is gone electric vehicle. I mention that just to give you an example of where the world is headed. Electric vehicles will cross over with internal combustion engine vehicles in terms of cost performance the middle of this decade. That's only 3, 4, 5 years away. And then if you add to it the environmental benefits, particularly around air quality, it's a no-brainer. And that is why the largest country, developed countries in the world, and countries like China, are promoting electric vehicle use. Air quality, greenhouse credentials, where your electricity particularly is sourced from renewables, total cost of ownership over the life. It's a trend that is only going in one direction. So there is a huge demand. A lot of projects will proceed, and Pure Minerals aims to be one of those many projects, and we will, as you asked, replicate that many times if we're successful.
Do you find, I know I've been in, myself personally, I've been involved in various sectors of high risk industry and resources sector in particular for many years. As you engage with local communities, there's a lot of misconceptions or lack of knowledge in communities. And when we're talking about building a big chemical plant, how are you being received by the local factor in the Townsville region?
Well, I won't speak from personal experience, Nicola, because sadly, only having been with this project 3 weeks and locked down in Victoristan, I haven't got there. But I've worked on many projects which are chemicals producing projects, and unfortunately, the industry has done quite a poor job of communicating to stakeholders.
That's so true.
Most people get their information from Hollywood and sensationalist media sources, and if I was one of those stakeholders, I would be concerned too. And it's up to industries like ours and like some of the others who are presented today to speak to the stakeholders and explain exactly what they're doing. I mean, you and I right now are sitting on chemicals. We're breathing chemicals. Some of you have had your coffee and you were drinking chemicals. Everything is a chemical. The water we drink, the air we breathe. All chemicals used incorrectly can be dangerous. People have been known to die from drinking too much water because it mucks up their electrolyte balance and have kidney challenges. So the chemicals that we are producing are really quite innocuous. Some of the leaching acids that we use, they're dangerous. Don't bathe in them. That'll be the last bath that you have. You'll be very clean, but it'll be the last bath that you have. But if they are used safely and appropriately with all the appropriate precautions, there are not problems. Most people with their internal combustion engine cars are driving around with a tank load of material used in the wrong way that could blow up a suburb. It's just a matter of using them safely and appropriately. And that's a lot easier for us to do with our technology. We don't have pressure vessels, so we don't have these high pressure leaks and things like that. So it's a plus. It's easier to do it safely.
Absolutely. Do you think, from my perspective, industry has a responsibility to educate the communities in which they operate? I'd like your opinion. What do you think, or where do you think the responsibility with local councils and local governments lie? Because oftentimes some of the misconceptions come from the people sitting in authority in those genres.
Yeah, and again, I put the responsibility at the foot of industry. It's not up to the local councils and the local interest groups and neighbourhood communities to go chasing information. It's up to companies like ourselves, and you've heard some great ones today who are doing exactly that. It's our responsibility to go to the interest groups, to hold the public sessions, to accept all queries, even from people who are negative about. You sit down, people have a right to be negative about something. Present the facts. Don't give them a book, a load of technical information. You sit down and talk and you explain. So I've worked with companies that have done that extremely well. And I'm proud to have worked with them. I've worked with others who've done it badly and with arrogance. And all they do is they perpetuate the bad news stories, and they make it hard for good companies like have been presenting today.
Thank you so much. Dr. Stephen Grocott, what a wonderful presentation. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
You are online with the Connecting Industry Conference, proudly sponsored or proudly presented by Resource Industry Media and sponsored by Jobs in Central Queensland. Our breakout sessions today have been sponsored by the South Pack Group and Phosrock. Right now, I'd like to hand you back to the Director for Resource Industry Media to close the conference today. But before I go, make sure you remember to stay in the networking room, which will be open until 1 p.m. And the conference app will remain open for a week post-close of conference today so that you can connect with other attendees and our speakers, and you will be receiving those speaker presentations. It has been my absolute pleasure to take you on this journey as we presented $15 billion worth of procurement opportunities across Queensland's Resource and Construction Centre. So now I'll leave you with Kieran and wish you a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you very much for that, Nicola. Much appreciated. You did a fantastic job today. And I do apologise for my fuzzy hair there within trying to get the lighting in this room. Never works to the way I would like to. And that's the fun that we're all playing today with, isn't it, in relation to we're all moving online a lot more than usual. So thank you for attending the Connecting Industry Conference today. Hopefully it provided you with the valuable information to be able to plan for your business's future, and hopefully that is a COVID-free future. Today's projects highlighted over 20,000 jobs and more than $15 billion of procurement opportunities over the next 3 years. Thank you to all our speakers and projects that took the time to present today, which is, it takes a lot of their time to get up and running, to get their presentations happening. So thank you very much. Marnie Evans from Inland Rail, Australian Future Energy, Kerry Parker, Daniel Belton from Acciona, Jeremy Kruger from Cross River Rail, Alex Graham and Andre Gonzalez from Siemens Gamesa, and Pure Minerals CEO Stephen Grocott. That was a great presentation, Stephen, and a very interesting project as well. I remember speaking to Stephen a little while back, and I said, when are we going to see the newspaper articles from Victoria up to Queensland or even up to Darwin in relation to people being able to drive their electric cars all the way, and they've got fill-up stations or charging stations, I should say, all the way. And he does predict that will be within about 3 to 4 years. And so a lot quicker than a lot of people think in relation to that. So it's great to see that technology moving forward. I'd also like to thank our breakout speakers today, Murray Saylor from Today Management Consultants, Joel Hillier from Hillier Consulting, Mike Swart from Industry Capability Network, and Jason Munton from Inland Rail, which I had to leave that breakout session a little bit early to get on here now because a lot of questions from that one. And so thank you very much to all those breakout speakers. I would also like to thank Nicola Curtis, our MC for today. She did a great job of facilitating today's events. And I would also like to thank our sponsors, Jobs in Central Queensland. Without Jobs in Central Queensland, or Jobs anywhere really, but without the organisation Jobs in Central Queensland, this conference would have been a lot more difficult for me to make happen. Phosrock as well, thank you for your support, much appreciated. And also the South Pack Group as well. Without their support, the Connected Industry Conference would never have been possible. I'd like to make the people aware that yes, the networking room is open till roughly 1 p.m. today, if you'd like to go in there. But of course, if you're having a good chat with someone, go create a meeting in Zoom and have a chat to them privately, of course. Now, the app that everyone, it was a bit of a try case in relation to the app today to see how that would work. Main reason I did that was to try and, as we know, face-to-face events, you can network more. So the whole point with the app was to network as much as possible for people. Now, that app is still available for the next week. So you can still go in there, find people's contacts, ask them to join as well, or message them as well, and you can still use that app. So if you do choose to do that and over the URL as well, download, please do so. Presentations also, a majority of the presentations I'll be able to send to people over the next 48 hours. I just need to get a couple of approvals on a couple of them at this time, and so look out for them in your email as well. Finally, I'd also like to thank everyone for coming yourselves to the Connected Industry Conference today. It is the first time the conference of this calibre has ever been held online, and I thank everyone for taking the chance to be involved in such an event. And I'd also like to, of course, thank some of my helpers here today, Tim and Lisa. Without them, the coordination, and I'll be slightly going a little bit insane, I think, as well. So thank you for Tim and Lisa for helping out today's event. So I wish you all the best in the future. Connect with Resource Industry Media via Facebook, LinkedIn or Twitter, or call me at any time. More than open to any suggestions. Let me know what's going on. We do radio across Central Queensland. We talk about projects. Connecting Industry podcast as well. If you want to learn more about Nicola, come onto the Resource Industry Network site and you'll find podcasts with Nicola, even with Stephen, who we just had before, also with Acciona, with Daniel Belton that we had earlier today. And you can actually learn more about them, and that's what the podcast is about. So I'd like to wish you all the best for the future, and enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you for attending. Much appreciated.